All right. I got to make sure everything's set up before I do. Really? Let's see. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Move this over so I can keep an eyeball on the chat. Right. Okay. I think we're live. Hello, everybody.
Nice.
The quiet atheist here, and welcome to another episode of One-on-One with the Quiet Atheist. Now, before I get started with our special guest today, I wanted to let you guys know if you want to have a discussion with me in the future one-on-one, please email me at theclosetatheist77@gmail.com. I would be more than happy to have you on a future episode. Now that that is out of the way, let's get to our special guest here. I'm going to give him the floor. He's going to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself. And I'm going to mute myself so you can have the freedom to do so. Go ahead.
Oh, hello there. My name is John. I live in England. I am an atheist, but an atheist probably like some of you have never, or probably have heard of them, but probably don't agree with. I'm a Gnostic atheist. I believe that the idea of a God is just impossible. So therefore, there's no reason to even entertain the idea of any God. I've got quite a lot of evidence that, well, I consider evidence that the idea of any God is just absurd, and any definition of God that's been given is just, preposterous, and therefore there is no reason for us to even assume the mantle of agnosticism. And the only really thing you can say is, well, until you define God as, something tangible, something that, that there's evidence for, then there's just no way we can even accept the idea that there is a God.
Okay, that works. Just in case you're not familiar with my position, I am an agnostic atheist.
Yes.
I believe that the knowledge to know whether or not there is a God or not is simply unknowable. I think that when it comes to the knowledge that the universe has to offer in its entirety in order to come to a conclusion of that nature, or even beyond, well, you know what I mean, is simply unknowable. We'd have to, basically know everything there is to know about the universe and then some. And that's knowledge that is simply unobtainable by the human species. We literally die out before we obtain at least half that knowledge.
Right.
So that's why I'm agnostic about the situation. And because there's no evidence to back up the claims, by theists and whatnot, I lack the belief. So, therefore I'm agnostic atheist.
Right. It's interesting that you said that we'd need to acquire all the knowledge that there is to know in the universe to know whether there's a God or not, because that perspective has already been debunked. I don't know whether you've heard the arguments for that.
Oh, that's interesting. And I have to be honest with you. I haven't heard any arguments for that, but I wanted to ask you a couple of questions.
Sure. Yeah.
Being that you're a Gnostic atheist, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the Dawkins scale?
Yes, I mean, it was on, I think it was on a video from Hemant Mehta, who was talking about the Dawkins scale,
Yes,
where
yes.
we actually had the conversation in the comment section there. So yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, so would you consider yourself a 7?
Yes, 7.
Okay. I have some questions for you concerning your position now.
Okay.
What you're basically saying is, you're absolutely certain that there is no God. Am I correct? And that there's no magic, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Yes.
Now, 2 questions. It's a 2-part question. The first question must be, wouldn't that be entering into some dangerous territory. And by dangerous territory, I mean, making a claim. And if so, would you have evidence for your claim?
Yes, I do have evidence for the claim. No, I don't think it is dangerous. And I don't think I'm making a claim, for example. I'm just disproving all other claims. Therefore, then, if until you give me the definition of the God, I mean, all I can do is refute any definitions of God. And again, it all depends on the definition you give me of God. If you was to say, for example, that the laws of nature are God, then my position then becomes a Gnostic theist, because obviously we know that the laws of nature exist. Yeah. So, but it's all down to the degrees of certainty. So yes.
Okay. Yeah, because that's the way that it always seemed to me. If it seems to me, I don't want to misrepresent what you say or anything like that, but it seems to me that you would necessarily be making a claim,
Well, I said, it depends on your definition. What are you defining as God?
Well, we're borrowing a theistic version of it, mainly Christianity, for example.
The Christianity, well, I mean, all versions and all definitions of that particular God have been debunked. So it's, I mean, I've got a cup in my hand. I'm certain I've got a cup in my hand. I mean, I know you can go down the solipsistic path to say, but we cannot know that we're not some brain in a vat kind of mentality, that I might not have a cup in my hand. Everything I might see around me and experience will be a figment of my imagination. So where does that leave certainty? Do you know what I mean? If everything possibly could be around me, a figment of my imagination, then we can't be certain of everything. So then the word certainty becomes irrelevant. So it's, if you're defining certainty as being 100% absolutely can know it. I mean, there's only one thing that we can really know in existence and that's I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think therefore I am.
Well, you can't even go to that far, therefore I am, because you don't even know that you are. The only thing you can actually attain is that I think, and that's it. That's the only thing we can actually know. So, I mean, where does certainty? So certainty is obviously not 100% because of the problems of hard solipsism.
Yeah.
So you've got a problem there of defining what do you call, and I mean, agnostics, it's the whole atheist community really. They've got a problem that they're taking the idea of certainty to unreasonable. Let me just get to my certainty tab here. What is it 100% mathematical accuracy? I think that 100% mathematical accuracy is unreasonable. Not only is it unreasonable, it's unobtainable because of the problems of hard solipsism.
Yeah.
I mean, you must have heard the term legal degrees of certainty that
yes,
the US judicial system uses. There's a few different standards of that they use for the standards of evidence. You've got no credible evidence, obviously starting from the weakest to the strongest. No credible evidence. You've got some credible evidence, a preponderance of evidence, clear and convincing evidence. You've got evidence beyond reasonable doubt, and then you've got certainty beyond a shadow of a doubt. And you've got all these different degrees of certainty. So to say that you are 99.99% certain that there is no God, to me, is enough to say there is no God. And again, the cup that I've got in my hand, I mean, I can't say that I'm agnostic that I've got a cup in my hand. Do you see what I'm trying to get at there?
Yes, I understand.
So I know that there is a cup in my hand, just in the same way that I know that there is no God.
Yeah. See, with me, as far as the scale is concerned, I'm more of a 6.9.
You're a
There,
6.9.
I think there's a very, very extremely low probability that there is one.
Right. Okay. So, from your position as an agnostic atheist, can I ask you? Hang on, let me word this question properly. So, my position is more likely to be correct than yours, if you see what I mean. Do you think that it's more likely that God does not exist, or that God could exist? Which is more likely?
Well, yeah, basically what, like I was saying earlier, basically what my position is I don't know if there is one or not. I can't make any claims. I can't come to a conclusion.
But what would you say was more likely, that a God exists or a God does not exist?
Well, there's a very low probability, so probably more than likely.
Right. So my position, again, is more likely to be correct than yours is, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But even then, can we really know for certain if, for example, there are other bipedal life forms on another planet, or like I'm saying,
Yeah, so
but then again, we get in.
or the flying spaghetti monster. Yes, I understand.
It's a big question. I mean, what do we know, and can we really know for certain what is out there beyond our understanding?
Well, again, you're using the word certainty, but certainty, if you're using the word certainty as 100%, then we're back to the problem of hard solipsism, that we can't know anything. So you've got an issue there. What did you say a second ago that I wanted to just bring up? So you used the example that intelligence from another planet there.
Yeah.
And it could exist somewhere in our reality. Now, the idea of God was disproved, and it was of this: we need knowledge. Until we get all the knowledge in the universe, that God cannot exist. Now then, this idea was disproved, and it was disproved by a theist inadvertently, actually. Do you remember our good old friend Joshua Fierstein?
Yes, I know of that guy.
Do you recall when he posted a video called the $100,000 Atheist Challenge?
Oh, I remember that. I saw that in its entirety. That was just laughable, man.
Yes. Well, he had inadvertently disproved his own God by doing that. And what it is, he had the circle, the large circle, and he labeled it, what did he label it? Knowledge, all knowledge that you could know. And he said, put on that circle, put how much knowledge you think you have. If the big circle is all knowledge, then and you'd put a small circle, wouldn't you, somewhere? Well, hang on, where is it? So if we take Mr. Fierstein's circle of knowledge and label it correctly as objective reality, which is what it should have been, because obviously Mr. Fierstein doesn't understand science properly. So our big circle of objective reality, if we place this smaller circle inside of the objective reality that represents his personal knowledge or my personal knowledge or anybody else's knowledge for that matter, but relabel it as all human knowledge. So that small circle inside the big circle, that's all the human knowledge that we've gained so far. And if we place God outside of the large circle, so if God is outside of this large circle, like you mentioned earlier, then we would find that God it'd be timeless, it'd be causeless, it'd be effectless, and most importantly, it'd be unreal. So if God exists outside of the circle of objective reality, then it just does not exist. Let's see. If our circle represents all of reality, so it also the universe and all that it contains. Nothing outside of reality is real. So everything outside the large circle is unreal. If we approach it, for example, say, our God exists somewhere inside the circle, so it could be somewhere in our universe and we just haven't found him yet. First thing that we will find is God is then subject to time, is subject to space, is subject to cause and effect, which means that God is limited to the parameters of the universe, which means that the God of, the God of Abraham in the Bible is limited, which means that it breaks all of the definitions that has been given to us by theists. So that whole analogy given by Joshua Fierstein disproves his own God, that is contradictory.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. I see where you're coming from there. And when he made that whole thing, I mean, I absolutely had to laugh at him, because he's sitting there claiming that, people like us, don't, are basically fumbling over ourselves and whatnot, in regards to knowing, and
Yeah.
because we can't know, we actually know that there is a God. I've heard him say these things before. He's crazy, man. And what makes me laugh about the whole situation is the fact that, he fails to realize that the same thing applies to him as well. I mean, he's just reading a book, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, his knowledge comes from, from a book. I mean,
Yeah.
his own, like I say, his own argument disproved his own God, because if the God is inside the circle of his knowledge and we just haven't found him yet, then his God is subject to all the same laws of physics that is in our universe, which means he would exist in time and space. He would be limited to all the laws of this reality, and it would also be effectless, and he'd be limited to those. For him to exist outside of this, which means that he would be timeless, he would be not limited to this space, like is claimed by a lot of theists, would mean that it doesn't exist in our reality, so therefore it just doesn't exist.
So and according to Christians, he would be kind of like a multiversal construct. Then he would be outside of the multiverse, if there is one. I mean,
the multiverse. Well, again, that's an abstract, but again, that's just down to the same thick problems of solipsism. We can't know that. We can't know that there's multiple universes. But it doesn't matter if there was multiple universes. If he was not in this universe, then he could have no effect upon this universe. So even if he existed in another universe, like one of the multiverses you spoke about, it would have no effect on us. So it would still say that God does not exist. If it's not in our reality, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah, you do have a point there. It's just, what I was saying about, myself, I guess from what I see in the chat, I guess people didn't know I was an agnostic atheist.
Right. Can I ask you, do you believe that all atheists should be agnostic?
Well, like I was saying, my position, I can't, say what other people should be. I mean, they're their own mind, they can choose what they want, and stuff. I can't sit here and say, well, this person should be that, or, be agnostic atheist, or this person should be this or that. People have a right to think what they want, and what I'm saying is, if I want to have a discussion with someone, I would like to sit here and have a discussion like I am with you, and get to understand their position a little bit better,
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I suppose you've not had many Gnostic theists on the show.
What's that?
I suppose you've not had many Gnostic theists on the show.
No, I've never spoke. No, I've never spoke. I've never spoke to a Gnostic atheist before. It's all been agnostic atheists for me.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? 4% of the population what they say atheists are, and then obviously a even smaller percentage of them are what we could say Gnostic atheists. But again, there's enough evidence in my mind that a God is just impossible. It's just an impossible construct, and it is a construct from human imagination, and therefore doesn't need.
And that also would raise the question: what is a God? You know, how can we define it?
Yes.
And how can we define it as a multiversal construct, multiversal being, or, you know, all of these things that these Christians, you know, give it? I mean, how you know, what is it? Is it a energy force out there somewhere? I mean, what?
Well, again, it's just all claims of the definition. I mean, all we can really do as atheists is just address the definitions that are given to us by atheists. And as far as I'm aware, that every definition that's been given to us, especially by the God of the Bible, the Abrahamic God, has been disproved. So therefore, I can conclude that. I mean, I've got the notes here somewhere.
Yeah, because it's basically comes down to their how do I call it? Their subjective interpretation of ancient writings.
Well, I mean, every theist has got their own version of what God is to them. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, there's
That's what's funny to me, because last time I checked, there was I believe there was 41,000 denominations of Christianity or something like that. And I was like, God dang. And each one of them is telling each other that you're wrong. You're doing this wrong. You know what I mean? And I was thinking to myself, if this, you know, God actually existed, right, there would only be one religion, not 40,000 denominations. And
well, exactly. I mean, and it all follows into the if you're a Christian, then your parents were probably Christian. If you're a Muslim, then your parents were probably a Muslim, etc. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if there was a God, there could be a way that he could make, you know, an appearance on an individual basis to each one of us, or help us, you know. If God really cared for us, if this claim that God really wanted us to, you know, to move on to a higher plane when we die, then he could make it happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, if you look in the Bible, if you was you're a father, aren't you? You've got kids.
Yeah, I got two of them.
Would you let your children play in a garden where you knew there were snakes, poisonous snakes, and poisonous apples?
Nope, I wouldn't.
So, I mean, if this is the God that theists are saying that we should follow, then I don't want to follow him either.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there.
I mean, there's every. I mean, I could go through it now. You've probably heard all the arguments of the definitions given by theists. I mean, they've all been debunked. You're probably wasting my time, you know.
Well, yeah. See, one of the they come up with all of the, you know, one of the things that really gets on my nerves when it comes to their arguments, you know, it's just, to me, is a fancy way to beat around the bush, so to speak, right? Yes. Instead of beating around the bush, go right through the motherfucker and provide some evidence.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, it's and it's just like, it amazes the hell out of me, man, I tell you. And then you got these guys, you know, bringing up, you know, the cosmological argument, the fine-tuning argument, you know, the ontological argument, all of this stuff, you know, especially William Lane Craig, he's good at that. You know,
he's very clever, but I mean, his position's already, you know, incorrect from the get-go. He's trying to explain God from reasoning alone. But you can also disprove it from reasoning alone. You know, the a
Yeah.
priori. So I mean, that's the same reason. You'll never hear him define God, because he knows that any definition of God that he gives can be disproved in the same way. He just hides behind all this reasoning, which philosophers, you know, they have to sit down and analyze every little thing that he says. Just to, you know, they can't do it off the fly, which is why he only does debates.
Yeah.
Because in a debate situation, there's no way for you to fact check on the fly. So it seems to them that he wins the debate just because he's got these arguments that are almost impossible to, like, off the cuff, just to break down and, you know, define as illogical or wrong. You know what I mean? So yeah, he's a very clever man. Don't get me wrong, but he knows right from the get-go that his position is unarguable. So he
Yeah.
does it on
Oh
purpose.
yeah. And I think, well, you know, every Christian that I've encountered, you know, is the same way. They know that their arguments are doomed right from the start, you know, but they still persist, you know, and they try to make us look stupid,
Well,
you know.
it's the same old argument. I mean, it's the same with the global warming. People, you know, people are still having an argument about, you know, what is global warming real? Is it not? It's already been decided. It's already, the argument's over. It's finished.
Yeah.
There is no argument there. It's happening. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
And people are
yeah,
still trying to have this argument, and they think that while the argument's still happening, then, you know.
yeah, that's what, correct me if I'm wrong, but not to sidetrack off the topic too much, but when it comes to global warming, isn't there, I think the figure was 97% of scientists, you know, have the same conclusion about global warming?
Yeah, exactly. So you've got this, it's the consensus, isn't it? So you've got this 97% of scientists that all agree that global warming is happening. So you can define that as certainty. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, I mean, if there are people who are undecided, agnostic, if you will, about the idea of global warming, then they fall into this area that's, you know, undefined, and it depends on this degree of certainty. I mean,
Yeah.
97% is certain, and that's, if you go above that, then you're just being unreasonable, and you've got this problem of solipsism, where you can't actually be certain about anything. So, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing with atheism and agnosticism.
Yeah.
So it did actually
Yeah.
tie into the same conversation, really, didn't it?
Yeah, and I always say, you know, with my position about the agnostics, right? To me, being an agnostic by itself is simply impossible. And the reason why I say that is, you know, sure, the agnostics, you know, position is about knowledge. You know, can we know, you know, have the knowledge to know whether or not there's a God or not, you know? But how, you know, I ask them, well, it is impossible to not know if you believe in a God or not. Either you do or you don't. You know, and it's just like, that's one of the problems I have with that. You know.
Yeah. But again, agnosticism and atheism are two different views, if you know what I mean. But if you're
Yeah, I
saying
understand.
that if you think that all atheists should be agnostic, just because if we do the term agnostic's been defined as person who believes there is nothing, nothing is known or nothing can be known about the existence of God, then you're always going to have an atheist with the agnostic, you know, affix tied to it. To me, it shouldn't be. There's two different views. You can be not sure if there's a God, like what agnosticism should be, and you can be sure that there's a God. There should be two different views, because if you're saying that all atheists are agnostic, then, to be honest, the word atheist just becomes superfluous.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Do you see what I mean? If you agree that all atheists should be labelled as agnostic, then atheist just loses its meaning. It's just not needed. To me, the cleverest thing that any theist ever did, and this is a fault of apologetics in particular, was to convince all atheists to refer to themselves as agnostics, just purely for the fact that it keeps them as a lesser percentage of the population. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can either be, so you've got your Gnostic theists that, think, yeah, there's a God, 100% there's a God. And then you've got your agnostic theists that are like, well, there could be a God, but I'm not really sure. But I think there's something up there. And then so there's this boundary that, is the difference between, to me, the agnostic is a bit like fence sitting.
Yeah, fence sitting. Yeah, that's the point that I was going to make earlier.
Yeah. I mean, you've got good, well-known atheists like Matt Dillahunty and the Messianic Manic on YouTube, and they've got this, to me, this ever-changing view of their own position, just so that they can avoid the argument of having to defend that position. Whereas there are arguments that exist where hard atheists, agnostic atheists like myself, can actually argue from, and they're just, instead of taking on those arguments, they fall back to this mediary position of agnosticism or materialism or whatever, just so that they don't have to have the argument with the theist about that position, which to me is, I call it the ever-shifting goalposts of atheism.
Yeah.
Which to me isn't a position. I mean, I've got proof right now that gods cannot exist.
Yeah.
And the proof, do you want me to go through the proof now?
What's that? What were you saying? You didn't come in that clear.
I've got proof that any God cannot exist. If you want me to go, I don't want to sound. Okay,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a dick or anything. I'm not trying to sound like that, but
okay.
I'd like to hear that. I'd like to hear your input.
This is mainly my position. This is one, you've probably heard this argument, but once I did hear this argument, I'm like, well, it does make sense, that. So I can infer that any God, not just the God of the Bible, any God, the God of any religion, any God that can be contrived, is just impossible. Just through intelligence. Not my intelligence, the intelligence of the God. So either you believe intelligence comes from evolution, like the way that humans have evolved to gain intelligence, or you believe that intelligence is a creation of another intelligence, i.e. God's creating humans with intelligence. There is no other way that intelligence can come. Intelligence cannot exist without a reason, so there must be a reason for it. And a God cannot just begin to exist with intelligence without a reason.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Right. So intelligence can only have been created by another God, or God must have attained intelligence through his own evolution. So without an environment, before God allegedly created the universe, without an environment there, any time or any space for him to have gained intelligence through evolution, it's impossible for him to have gained intelligence from evolution.
Yeah.
Which it rules that possibility out. So if he gained intelligence from another intelligence, like another God, then you've got the problem of infinite regression, which again contradicts itself and disproves itself in the own fact. So either intelligence can only be gained through evolution, or it must be given to another God. Because we've explained that God, creating a God is, a fallacy of itself, then we can infer that the only way intelligence can be gained is through evolution. Therefore, the idea of God is automatically disproven. God cannot evolve his own intelligence because without there being a universe there, i.e. time and space, there was no way for him to gain any evolution, intelligence.
Okay. I see what you're saying there.
So God cannot God cannot exist because there was no way he could have gained the intelligence. Intelligence does not just spring out of the existence without a reason.
Yeah. I see what you're saying there. I completely understand where you're coming from. And even with me, see the difference between me and a lot of people when I get into discussions like this, is me, myself, I can't speak for everybody else, but myself, I'm able to change my position honestly. If I see an error in, coming from my end, I'll concede and I'll change my position accordingly, and what you've been telling me here has been making a lot of sense to me, if that makes any sense.
Well, good. Again, with myself, if any evidence did present itself that a God could be possible, it did mention in that back in that Meta's video that we was on, that a 7 is a position that even if evidence was there, you would disprove it, i.e. a dogmatic position. But that's wrong. That's wrong to say that. That's a straw man, if you will, because you're giving us a position that we do not hold. Most Gnostic atheists, just like myself, if any evidence were to present itself, then we would change our position, or most of us would. And the ones who are, scientifically, intellectually honest to themselves.
Yeah.
But it does not mean. But what I know that no evidence is going to be presented, because
it never will be either.
Exactly. I've already proven that a God cannot come into existence just because of the intelligence problem. Either he gained intelligence through his own evolution, but without a time and space, a reality just like ours. For him, if God created our reality, then there was no reality before that. And without him having a reality in which to evolve his intelligence, then it's impossible for him to exist.
Yeah. I see what you're saying there.
There's lots of people that can say, well, God could exist in some other fantasy. Just because you can imagine a God existing doesn't mean to say it is possible that a God could exist. I could imagine that the glass that I'm holding now could just suddenly explode for any reason. It doesn't mean to say it's going to happen. And glasses have never ever been shown to explode for no reason. Just like intelligence has never been shown to, appear for no reason. So the only way that the only way that we can know that intelligence comes is through evolution. So either God evolved, which we've shown he can't because there was no place for him, or God gained intelligence from another being.
That's exactly. A being of somewhat higher intelligence would have to have created him themselves. I see what you're saying.
But then you've got the problem of infinite regression, which again, is impossible. If God created time, then the infinite regression problem is wrong because it can only go back so far, which means that God cannot have been created by another God, which means that is impossible. It's the what's that argument they give for God before the causeless God? Causality, is it?
Yeah, causality for every action there is a reaction.
Yeah. So, is it the cosmological? It's the cosmological argument, isn't it?
I think so.
Yes. Or is it the ontological? I can't remember now. It's one of those.
Yeah.
Both of which have been debunked. So to me, to me, it does not make sense for an atheist to hold an agnostic position, because there is evidence out there that disproves that God's impossible to exist anywhere. So to me, it's the position of agnosticism doesn't make sense. Probably as my position as a Gnostic theist probably doesn't make sense to you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But again, from my position, this is funny now. From my position, I'm saying that a God does not exist, and from your position, you're trying to show me that a God could exist. So you've now become the theist, if you will, and I'm the atheist.
I understand what you're saying there, and that
you're trying to convince me that a God could exist, and I'm saying no. So I'm now the atheist, and you're now the theist.
Yeah, I understand completely where you're coming from there.
Yeah, I find that very funny.
Yeah, and it's you know, I was telling you earlier, you know, I'm completely honest enough to change my position, you know, if the situation presents itself, and this is one of those situations. I can understand where you're coming from,
mm-hmm.
You know, and some people out there can't do that. You know, they just can't do it. I don't understand why.
That's where you get the dogma, isn't it? That's the dogmatic position. That if evidence against your position or your opinion is presented, then you know you can't not do. If you want to maintain intellectual honesty, you can't do that. So again, to me, you can be a 7 on the Dawkins scale and still hold an undogmatic position.
Yeah.
But so Hemet Meta really was straw manning people who identify as a 7 on the Dawkins scale, in my opinion, on that one.
Yeah. And you know, and that I understand where you're coming from. And one of the arguments, you know, one of the things that I always pose to Christians when they have a conversation with me, I give them a set of criteria, if you will, that they have to meet in order for me to believe what they're saying, right? I tell them, number one, prove to me beyond a shadow of a doubt with evidence that a God exists. Number two, provide evidence that your God exists. Number three, provide evidence for the correlation of this multiversal construct that you claim exists in regards to humanity. Provide that correlation. You know, how does he interact? You know, provide all of that evidence necessary to prove your case, and they fail every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's useless to have a discussion with you at this point. That's what I tell them.
I understand that it is with a lot of obviously they've got this, you know, the cognitive dissonance is deeply inset within some theists, that you're no longer arguing with the theists when you have debates, like when Matt Dillahunty has debates with Sci 10 and others like it. He says you're no longer debating with your opposing person. You're actually making arguments for the viewers who are watching you. If you've got lots of people who are on the borderline of, you know, if you've got agnostic theists, you might come up with an argument that thinks, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. This, you know, and it might convince those agnostic theists that what they thought was true might not just be. So again, you're no longer having the debate with the person who you invited onto your show, or you're having the debate with, but you're having the debate with the audience who are watching you, which I think is more important than actually winning the debate, in my view.
Yeah, I completely understand, because I always look at it this way, you know, because there's, you know, Christians out there, you know, that have this solid position, you know, you're not going to change their mind at all. period.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I'm trying to, the people that I'm trying to expose myself to are the people that are basically, you know, not as dedicated to it as these other ones that I just previously talked about, you know, that are kind of on the fence, if you will, so to speak. And, you know, yeah, and those are the people that I'm trying to communicate with.
Yeah, the people who are in the middle. I mean, you've got the problem of cognitive dissonance is that it puts up so many barriers that any arguments that you then try and present to that person just hit the brick wall. Do you know what I mean? And
yes,
just bounce straight off you, and it's disregarded before it's even postulated. There's a guy that I was watching not so long ago on YouTube. And have you ever heard of street epistemology?
yes.
I forget what the guy was called. It's one of my YouTube subs, and he was you know, just having a 5-minute conversation with people just on the street, and he would start off his conversation with how strong is your view that X exists. It wasn't just God. It was, you know, anything supernatural, ghosts, politics, anything that person wanted to talk about. But he was more interested in why they held those opinions than he was in the opinions themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was he'd first get them to say, what is your view on this, and how strongly do you believe on, you know, on this? And you go 100% believe X, you know, God exists, if you will. And then he'd just ask questions. He wouldn't present arguments to that person. He would ask questions to that person, and he would get the person's own mind thinking about those answers that they give. And you know, once you do that yourself, it's better than someone arguing with you the points, because then your own mind's doing the work, and the barriers that you put up when you know that you're debating with an atheist seem to come down. Do you see what I mean? And
Yes.
once you reach those opinions in yourself, think, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Why do I think that? By the end of the conversation, you find that majority of people had come down from that 100% certain that X exists, and there was like 50, 70% sure, which to me is, if you're not 100% sure that a God exists, then you're an atheist, and that's the weakest term of an atheist, isn't it? Is not believe that a God exists. That's the weakest form of atheism you can.
Yeah,
If you do not
they use
believe,
the term.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you do not
I believe they
believe,
use the.
oh, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, I believe they use the term weak atheist or something like that.
Weak atheist. Well, that's just agnostic. Yeah. From there's weak atheism, and then there's strong atheism, which is the Gnostic atheism. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
That's just agnosticism. If you're not sure if a God exists or not, so that's your weak. You don't have a belief that there's a God, which means obviously you are that's the weakest form of an atheism you can get, is not having a belief. If you're not 100% sure that a God exists, then to be honest, you should be an atheist. This agnosticism, the agnosticism to me doesn't make sense. You can't not be sure. I don't know if a God exists or if a God doesn't exist, so I'm going to stay in the middle and not have an opinion of it. Either you believe a God exists or you don't believe a God exists. So to me, there's only theist and atheist. To be honest, the term atheist, in my view, should not exist anywhere. I mean, you don't. It's obviously it exists because the term theist exists, but in my view, you don't have a word for everyone who in the world who's not a plumber, or anyone who's not a motorcycle rider. You don't have a word for that. So to me, the word atheist is just a word. To me, you should have theist and then everybody else. Yeah. Theist or deist, even if you believe in, there's something.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a God, you should have theists, and then everybody else, and that's it. Those who make the claim of something should have the label. Anybody else who doesn't have, make that claim, doesn't have to have a label, in my view.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I completely understand. Yeah, and I'm just saying, like, I was completely open, to changing my position, and and from the looks of it, I'm probably going to change it, but I still love to question people, because I'm curious about things. I'm curious. I believe this is the first time I've ever talked to you, while the second time, because technically we talked under that video in the comments section.
Yeah, it was only a brief. But again, I did mention it, I was certain, but I was certain it was magic, wasn't it? I said magic, and if a god did exist, then he would have to use magic. It would have to be supernatural.
Yeah.
So I mean, for the same reason, I can say that there is no God. You could say that there is no Santa Claus. So you're Gnostic, and you're a Gnostic atheist on the principle of, on the view of Santa Claus existing. So, and when you're saying, and you're also agnostic, Gnostic atheist on the existence of fairies, on the flying spaghetti monster. It's just when it comes to God that people then use this label of agnostic. And to me, it's special pleading when it comes to God. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like a theist would use special pleading for a God. Oh, God is this, God is that. You can't measure God. You can't give evidence of God. It's special pleading for a God. And from an atheist position, from a hard atheist position, for you to say that you're agnostic is using special pleading just for God. So you're already acknowledging that God exists just by having an agnostic position.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I completely understand there.
Yeah. So for you to say I'm not sure, it is just a position that is also inferring that a God exists. It's presupposing. Do you know what I mean? It's a presuppositional argument is being agnostic, that a God could exist. So again, you're back to the apologetics thing there. So again, from my position, you've now become the theist, the apologetic theist.
Love me too. Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. And I'm, like I was telling you earlier, I'm honest enough, and I think, I am going to change my position. I'm going to work things around. I think, I can at least admit when there's error on my part.
Yeah. I mean, it's something. It's a position that you work into. I mean, you're probably going to have debates with other theists in the future, and you're going to have to work out how to defend that position. But I mean, it's defendable. It's defendable from the intelligence argument that I gave you earlier, that intelligence can only come from evolution. There's no other way it can come.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only if an atheist attacks you on that position that you then have to defend it. But if you're going to be arguing against a theist, which is probably going to be a Christian, maybe a Muslim.
Yeah.
But again, the definitions of both gods, which are both Abrahamic, have also been debunked. So you're also, from that position, you've got armor against any argument that they can present against you, just because of philosophy that's already ascertained that those positions are ridiculous, so that they can't possibly exist. So again, coming from the position of atheism is one that is defendable, in my opinion, and it is one that we can say for certain. I can say for certain that, like I say, I hold that glass in my hand. I can also say for certain that Santa Claus does not exist. I don't need to be agnostic on the idea that Santa Claus exists.
Yeah.
And for the same reason, I don't need to be agnostic on the idea of God.
Yep, I completely understand where you're coming from. And like I said, I think, I'm willing to recognize error on my part and, change things around,
I mean, you don't. I mean,
and
you don't have to like straight
I
away
guess,
change it.
yeah. Well, see, I guess the whole problem with me, you see, the problem with me is I was a Christian for, I'd say, about 30 years. Okay.
We are.
And I don't know why, man. I can't stand it. But there's still some of those habits that are grabbing a hold of me. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
I just can't shake them off sometimes.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I was a Christian as well. I went all the way. I was brought up Christian. I attended Christian school, or Catholic school actually, rather than just Christian.
Yeah.
But from this side of the water over in England here, religion's completely different. I mean, when I look at religion in the United States, even Ireland, if I went to say, Ireland's got a very similar idea of religion that the US has. It's just crazy. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how people like that can exist. Like when I've been watching, obviously, I keep up with US politics. I was watching all the things from the US presidential campaign.
Yeah.
And some of the things, that people were saying were just crazy. And when that whole Pizzagate thing came out, I was like,
oh, I know, man.
What
That was fucking ridiculous.
hell? But and again, this is the fault of religion, why people have these ridiculous ideas in their head. And it's the way that they rationalize these decisions. But I don't think they even do. I think they just, right, I have this position, that position's now locked in a big safe, and that position cannot be argued against, no matter what I hear against it. And it's the same for the God, that they take God and they lock it away, and it's like everything that, all bullets that are fired at that safe bounce straight off that safe, and nothing can change the mind on it. And it's the cognitive dissonance that stop people from making, they lock down their opinions into a place that cannot be attacked by reason, if you will, and rationality.
Yeah. This is a very, very interesting discussion. Hell yeah, it is, man.
Yeah. But again, growing up through school, I attended a Christian school.
Yeah.
But not one of the pupils in that school, it was only a small school of about 600 in total throughout the high school. I could say that not one of those people believed in God, even though it was a Christian school.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody in the town that I live in who is a believer in God. And that's how it is in the UK. I mean, most people, you might get some Pew studies or whatever, where people, I believe there's something, but atheism especially in England, to me, is a lot higher. And looking at the US, it's like I'm looking back 50 years into the past of what it was like in England. And that's what the US, it seems to be that they're behind with the views. I don't know if it's because the country is too large, that communities have been so spread out that engagement between these and ideas haven't spread as quickly as it would in a smaller country such as England.
Yeah.
And I believe that the internet is the biggest thing that's happened to atheism. And
well, that I don't know if you're familiar with the old saying, but they say that the internet is where religions come to die.
Yes, I have heard that. Yes, I've heard that. And I mean, if from a Christ, when you look at the US, if you look into, say, the Middle East is looking back in time from the US's perspective, if you see what I mean, where their fundamentalism is even stronger than it is within the United States. And it's again, it's the degrees of separation between other ideas and other opinions that has protected these places from rational thought. And again, to me, it's crazy I mean, when you look at, things that are going on within the Middle East right now, it's like, this is all because of religion. How can people think this stuff? Like with, sorry, like with Sharia law, it doesn't.
Oh,
How the hell can people think that those things are acceptable? Again,
right. Yeah,
it's like I'm
it's
looking.
crazy. And
It's like I'm looking back in time through, from to de-evolved humans, de-evolved human society. That this just isn't right. From
exactly. And
I know in
I,
Europe we are quite modern in our thinking, and the rest of the world is still getting up. Like I mean, what's your opinion of the death penalty?
the death penalty. I'm not really sure. I've thought about it there for a while. Man,
I was disappointed
like
to see
I don't know.
that.
I don't know I don't know if you've heard about Dylan Roof, right? That recent
Yes,
case where that kid.
I was just going to
Yeah.
bring that up. Yes.
Yes. Now, I myself personally think that when you go into a place of worship, I may disagree with their positions, I may disagree with their philosophies, whatever the case might be. But I think that if you're going to go into a place of worship, okay, and you're going to slaughter 9 people because they are a different skin color, you deserve the death penalty.
See, I don't agree with you on that, really. I think that for you to, I mean, yes, is his death justified? Yes, but it would only be justified if one of the people there killed him in the heat of the moment. That would be a justifiable death.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
He's been caught now. Justice. I mean, for you to then for someone to say, right, death penalty, take him out to, even if it's like a shooting shot at a wall or whatever death he gets, it's not justifiable. To me, when you kill someone, even no matter what they've done, even if it was Hitler, like, for example, then you become the monster himself. To go out and kill a monster, you have to become the monster.
Exactly.
To kill a killer, you have to become a killer. So to me, there is no difference in killing someone who has killed.
Like saying, say for example, someone killed one of my kids, right? And then I go out and kill them for doing what they did to my son, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
In all actuality, that makes me just like them.
Killer. Yes,
that makes me
be justifiable to do so. It's justifiable for you to kill him.
Yeah.
But you still have become just like him in doing so. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, if like there was that guy who shot up that airport, wasn't there, last week? I forget what he was.
I forgot his name, but he was from the military.
Yes. Anyway, if someone had have killed him in the act of killing people, that would have been a justifiable death.
Yeah, in defense. Yes.
But for them to capture him and then while he's in cold blood and kill him is, to me, you've just become exactly what that guy was to start with. And to me, that's a position that I couldn't, to me, it's better for him to rot in jail for the rest of his life.
Yeah, because to be honest with you, I actually think that, say, if I were to have done something like that, I would, I would, actually, now that I think about it, would recommend, someone to do not 120 years in prison, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think a life behind bars with no freedom for the rest of your natural life is worse than death.
Sure it is. Oh, hell it is, yes. Do you know what I mean? But again, we're back to the Bible again, because this death penalty is an eye for an eye. It's part of the religion of the Bible. And an eye for an eye, it doesn't work. Why should you have, so now you've got two families that are, even if Dylan Roof's family, disowned him and, said that what he did was, terrible. I mean, you're
Yeah.
still somebody's son. You know what I mean? Even so, then you've got two cases where you've killed people, and to me, it's just for us to it makes you inhuman.
Yeah.
If you were
Well,
to
see,
kill someone in cold blood.
yeah, I recently encountered a Christian. Now you're gonna find this to be hilarious.
Okay.
He said, "Oh, there's no verse in the Bible that says an eye for an eye." And I go, "Really?" So I threw him the verse in the comment section of a video. I forgot which video it was, and that was the last I heard of him. You know, I went and got the Bible verse and I threw it at him, and it said an eye for an eye, a foot for a foot, or a hand for a hand, something like that.
Tooth for a tooth, was it? Yeah, tooth for a tooth. But it all goes back to I mean, most Christians, most theists, have never read the Bible. And you can prove it on so many different levels. But they don't care that, you know, that the Bible contradicts what their own view is, or they don't know that something that was in the Bible. It's just they have this position, and I will not change this position, even if you show me that my own book that I'm saying that everything comes from. Like I had a conversation recently with someone, and I was having this conversation, and he was saying, even if, you know, the Bible tells me that 2 and 2 equals 5, I'll believe it. I'm like, but then that's a position that's just, you know, illogical to hold.
Yeah.
How can you hold a position? You know that 2 and 2 is 4. How can you say that this book that you've never even read says that it's 5? So you must believe it's 5.
I know, right?
And
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
What I was going to say next, I'm going to go to the chat. Would anybody in the chat have any questions for him? Please feel free to leave any questions that you guys would like to ask.
How do I see the chat here?
Let's see. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that part works. The reason why I can do it is I got two things open at the same time.
Okay.
I got the main screen where I'm looking at you inside the Hangout, and then I move that to the side a little bit where I can see the chat on my right hand side.
Right. Yeah, is it the top one next to the Google symbol? Chat. I've not seen any comments in there. Or is that just the chat between you and me? I think. Yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah, that's the chat between you and me. The public chat is on the outside. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see that. Yeah, but I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody have about.
Yeah,
my position.
I got one. Yeah, I got one from Stella Colson. She asks, "What was the one thing that made you first question religion?"
First question religion. I think religion's never had any answers for me to begin with, if to be perfectly honest. I think I was always, because my parents aren't actually religious, do you see what I mean? Although they wanted me to attend this Christian school just because it was the best school that was available in the area. So I haven't had that indoctrination hammered right into me. So I guess, I mean, there was a time when I wanted to, because obviously my friends who did attend that Christian school, their parents were religious, and there was like a youth group, like, you know, like a club that we used to go to, and that was run by, in fact, it was run by a different denomination of. That was by the Church of England, another domination of Christianity. So we used to go places like, you know, surfing or, you know, rock climbing, just with this youth group that we used to go to. So there was a time where, because everyone around me, you know, had this belief that I wanted to believe. I wanted to believe in Jesus mainly, but then I had this problem with God. I couldn't believe in a God but obviously this is before I realized that the Trinity, because of the Trinity, that Jesus and God were the same person. And then that was it for me, that obviously if you can't believe in one, then the other one just falls at the wayside, really. So again, I don't think I ever really said that I was a 100% believer in God. It's always been that there's always been doubt.
Yeah.
Can't say that there was one instance really that actually was that.
Yeah.
That was it for me.
Yeah. Let me see if there might have been another question that I've missed. Let me go up the chat a little bit here to see. Let's see here. How about, let me see, let me go up just a little bit more because I think I missed a question earlier. Let me see here. Let's see, hold on. I believe it was something about the supernatural, which is probably, basically the same thing, Hold on. What do you think of the supernatural? And this is from another lady who goes by the name of Fiction Fighter.
Oh, the supernatural. Do you mean like ghosts and things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They don't exist. There is no monsters hiding under your beds. Which basically is what it is. I mean, I found I was watching something recently, and it was very interesting actually about why some people experience ghosts, and one possible way that you could experience ghosts from his it was only his opinion, is that strong emotion could be linked to ley lines in the earth. Again, this is not my position. I don't really believe it, but he was saying that when you see a ghost, the ghost that you're seeing is not the ghost. You're standing in exactly the same spot, seeing the memories of the person who was experiencing that strong emotional feeling at that time, and it's been recorded onto, some ley lines. So the ghost you're seeing is not the ghost. You're actually experiencing the memories of the person who passed away, seeing what they saw at that time. But again, I don't think it's real. I think there's nothing scary hanging around. It's
Stella Colston. Yeah, Stella Colson in the chat says that the only monsters under her bed are her cats.
And you're more likely to get an injury from one of those than you are from any ghost. Let me tell you that.
I know, right? Yeah. I know. Yeah. Okay. For the last part of the show, would you be willing to have some talk with some other people for a couple minutes before you leave?
Sure.
Okay, let me get the link out for a quick, everybody. I'm going to put the link in the description for everybody. And if you guys want to come in and have a chat with us for a few minutes before I end the show, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to mute myself real quick. All right, everybody, I'm back. If you guys would like to come in and have a chat with us for a little bit, the link is in the description at the top. You're more than welcome to come in and have a chat with us. If you guys want to talk with my guest here on the panel, you're more than welcome to come in if you guys want to. The link is in the description.
Come
So
on,
I
you're
must,
nice friendly guys.
yeah, I must say that it was really pleasant to talk with you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was nice to talk to you as well, John.
Yeah, and it's it's like I was saying earlier, I mean, I honest enough to admit, that I can be corrected, and I
Sure.
think that it's and I think this is one of those cases where, I think I was.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way to be, really. If you want to maintain intellectual honesty, then
Yeah.
you have to accept that any evidence that against your position, is valid, and you have to change your position on that. It's all part of being scientific, really, isn't it? I mean, that's probably most of the reason why I didn't slip further into theism myself.
Yeah, I always say, you have to be open to be corrected. You have to be open to correction all the time.
It's all about honesty with yourself. If you can't be honest with yourself, then there's no hope for anybody else, really, is there?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we had somebody come in there. I think they've left
again. Stella, if you come back in and try and give it a shot, I think when you come in, you have to unmute yourself. Let me see. Let me present you first. Hold on 1 second, okay? Okay, go ahead and unmute yourself. Stella, go ahead. All you have to do is unmute yourself.
Right.
Is it working?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yay!
Yes.
I was just thinking. I think I wrote it in the chat before. I was just wondering, like, how the first concept, the first person who actually thought of the concept of God, and imagine having to convince all these tribes that this was a thing. Yes, God will smite you if you don't, do what I say, but he only talks to me. I find that so amazing.
That's interesting. You say the first evidence of supernatural they think is, when you have all this very ancient cave art. They always, anything that they couldn't explain, back in the day, they would, because when you go into a cave, obviously there's an echo, and you think there's someone there replying to you because they didn't understand that, sound bounces on the walls. They would have people who would go into the caves to speak to spirits, which they thought was the echoes. And this is where the concept of God comes from. It comes from the, things that are unknown, that where the concept of God. So I don't understand this, therefore it must be something above me that's created this. And that's where they think the first religions came from, was, cave speakers, if you will.
Yeah, but I wondered if they all went into the cave and all came out with all these different ideas. No, that's not what he said.
Well, people would have been afraid of these caves, you know what I mean? Because
they
believe the spirits lived in these caves. So to go into a cave, you could get cursed in that cave or whatever. So you'd have these people who would enter the caves and speak to the spirits on your behalf, which is where your first preachers or your shamans, if you will, came from, speaking to the spirits, which is what shamanism is, speaking to spirits. And this, they reckon that's where the early, forms of God came from, was these strange caves, which is why you get all these paintings in caves and things of people's handprints and things.
That's interesting, and it's funny how it sort of spanned into numerous ridiculous ideas. It's quite fascinating,
and it's not just
scary at the same time.
It's not just from one civilization as well. We see it on all different continents, the same thing, of this, cave art, and people, when they draw pictures of like antelopes and things, things that they prey on. It's a prayer to the spirits, if you will, to make these, in abundance, so that they can feed the family or whatever for hunting.
And especially back then, with like no hospitals back then and all of that, life was terrifying.
Oh well,
So
the only treatment they had back then for it was drill holes in your skull, wasn't it?
So the idea of something being up there that could heal you must have been very comforting at the time.
Yes, yeah, I see where you're coming from there, yeah.
So believing in fairy tales can kind of, soothe people, but it's become a dangerous thing. Like, the more we know about the world, the more kind of dangerous believing in these childhood fantasies are kind of becoming.
Well, you've just nailed what religion is on the head there. It's making yourself feel better about what's going to happen to you after you die. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly the point that I was going to bring up. I think that the reason why they created all of this is because they fear their own mortality.
Mm. Which you still do anyway, even when belief kind of goes on the back burner. It's, life's still scary, and life's scary whether you believe or not. I mean, it's a funny thing. But it makes life a lot more precious, the fact how little it is, and making the most of it, rather than, believing that, oh, life will be better afterwards, while wasting the one and only life you have.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it, with religion? Is it is it okay to treat people in this world with lesser respect because when you go to heaven, everyone's treated equally. So this from a theistic point of view, does this life really matter? Do you know what I mean? And you're fine with people who are atheists, who believe that there is no afterlife, that you tend to find that they treat people better than a theist would do, just because of the fact that they know that this is it, this is all we get.
Mm. And when the thing is, when you don't have a belief system as such, you treat people for variety reasons, and because it's the right thing to do, because that's how we've evolved, to care about each other as a tribe, as a community, rather than because, oh, I'll get a reward at the end of it. That's a horrible reason to be nice to someone.
Yeah, just to get a reward.
Yeah, they're so fixated on what's going to happen allegedly after they die. They just don't care about what's going on right now.
Yeah,
yeah, it's crazy, man. It's like, oh, everything else doesn't matter. All your loved ones, everyone that you meet or will ever meet in your entire life doesn't matter. You just got to kneel and worship.
Well, that's the problem of heaven, in my view. I mean, if heaven is real, right, then you might get people who have, say like a serial rapist raped one of your children, or yourself, in fact, and then murdered you. When you'll get to heaven, you'll have to be best friends with that person.
There's a channel called Dark Matter who did like an animation.
Dark Matter, yeah.
He did it on just that, where like a man's, like his wife was like murdered, and she went to hell because she was an atheist, and he and like the murderer of his wife had to be in this la la land, like their memories were kind of skewed, and they had to be friends with each other on this just
because the murderer was a theist, I believe.
Yeah, and back in hell, the demons went to her, well, at least you get to keep your mind. And I just think that's better, and I love that. I love that channel.
Right.
Oh yes, he's one of the guys that I watch all of the time. I mean, man, another guy that I really like on here too. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he goes by the name of Theoretical Bullshit.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I've heard the name, but I haven't seen that channel yet.
No, I haven't heard of that one either. I'll definitely check it out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he here in America, he's a actor. He stars in a soap opera called The Bold and the Beautiful.
Oh, well, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, his real name is Scott Clifton, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah, you can find him on Twitter. He has a YouTube channel as well. Videos of his that I really like. If you guys have the time to check it out later on, I have it in a playlist on my channel called Videos That Inspire Me. And the title of the video is "What If I'm Wrong?"
Ooh.
Check that video out. I mean, it's really interesting.
Okay, I've just brought him up there. I'll subscribe to him now and watch some of his videos later.
Yeah,
Nice.
he's a really good guy. I like Dark Matter too, man. And Dark Matter, badass.
It is. It's just so, it's funny, and I feel like I'm learning each time I watch it. I'm like, oh, he's so right about that, because you're like, you think back to when you're younger, when you read these things, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that story, and you're like, yeah, that's so, like, particularly the story of Lot, that really cracks me up, and like, this is the guy who we kept alive, and here is like his son, his grandsons / sons. Because he slept with his daughters, and it's like, ew.
Well, it's very good. I mean, the quickest way to become an atheist, if you're a theist, is to read the Bible. And I mean, basically, that's all what Dark Matter is doing, is taking the stories out of the Bible, and it's presenting them to you, and just to watch them.
And it's not that much different. He's not skewed it at all. That's
not at all.
what happens.
No. And just watch it and think, this is ridiculous. How can anyone believe this is true? Do you know what I mean? And this is what the Bible is, and it is true that the Bible is the quickest way to become an atheist. By reading
it. And it's amazing how many don't actually read it. Like, you get people preaching their select little verses from their sort of like their little annotated version, their little kind of snippets of the Bible, like their Idiot's Guide to the Bible, but they haven't actually read the actual thing. Because if they actually read the actual thing, they're thinking, well, that contradicts with that, that contradicts with that. That's not historically accurate. One
of the things that I hate is when you point something in the Bible to them, you point out something. The first excuse that I hear every time that I do this is, you're taking it out of context. You're taking it out of context. That's not what it actually means.
Oh, man.
Well, I mean, how else are we supposed to take the Bible? I mean,
exactly.
If it's supposed to be the divine word of God,
then they shouldn't contest it. Like, if you're a woman, you should keep, hidden and obey your husband if that is the thing. And it's usually some woman who will have a go at me for questioning religion, and I'll say, yes, but you should be covered. You shouldn't even be learning or reading or doing anything, that a man would do, or wearing makeup or anything, because that's an affront to God. That's an affront to your God. Yeah, it never goes down well.
or you get the argument, and that was in the Old Testament.
Yeah. They say, we really don't follow the Old Testament. Nothing from the Old Testament it needs to be taken seriously. And I go,
so bring up the New Testament to mess. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I ask them,
all the stuff about slavery is fun to bring up.
Yeah. So I ask them, so does that mean that you don't take the creation story seriously because it is part of the Old Testament, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
There's that passage from the New Testament from Jesus, wasn't it? I didn't come to change the old laws.
Abolish.
Abolish. I came to enforce, but not enforce them. What was the word he used?
He said,
I came to ratify them.
Yeah, he's not the least stroke of a pen. I know what you're saying there. Yeah, he does say that. He did not come to abolish the laws, only to fulfill them.
That's it. Yeah, fulfill them. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, Jesus himself says that just from that one passage, that everything in the Old Testament is just as valid as it is in the New Testament.
Yeah.
But again,
we gotta.
So, folks, it's okay to sleep with your daughters if it's your daughters and get them pregnant. Hallucinate that your wife turned into salt. This is all okay.
We got another atheist in the chat that I really, really like. The Preaching Atheist. If you want to come in, go ahead. The link is in the description or in the comment in the chat. He's another guy I really like. He used to be a preacher.
Oh, interesting.
Is it Bobby?
Huh?
Is he called Bobby? I think I'm subscribed to his channel.
Yeah, he's called the Preaching Atheist. I'm not sure if you're subscribed to him or not.
I think I am. I think, yeah. He's always got a Bible in front of him, hasn't he?
Yeah, he always cites from the Bible in his videos.
Yeah, yeah. Bobby. Yeah, I know Bobby. Yeah, if he wants to come in, that'd be great.
Oh, he's not at the computer at the moment. Okay, that's fine.
Hi, Bobby.
Yeah. He said, Bobby. Yeah, I like Bobby, man. He's badass too. I love him to death. I love watching his stuff.
Does Bobby have a question about my Gnostic atheism, by the way?
I'm not sure. Bobby, in the chat, do you have a question for John? I don't know how to John? Yeah.
Yeah, John.
Do you have a question, Bobby, for John here on the panel about his Gnostic atheism? Mr. Paranor is in the chat as well, too. Come on in, Paranor. I'd love to have a chat with you as well. Come have a chat with us while we still have the show on. Well, the topic, Bobby, is Gnostic atheism. Not agnostic atheism, Gnostic atheism. Yeah, if you guys have any questions or if you want to come in, the link is in the description. I'll read the questions to the panel and we'll get something going here for a little bit longer before I shut the show down.
Did you have any questions, Stella, about the Gnostic atheism?
Ooh.
Have you been listening to the show from the start?
I've been sort of listening to it for the last, hang on, probably for the last 40, 50 minutes. So yeah, so not all of it. But it's trying to think of something interesting to ask.
Are you an agnostic atheist yourself?
Yeah, I'd guess I was between, like, I'd be within that kind of mindset. More because part of me kind of wants there to be something, even though I kind of know there isn't, but I'm kind of hoping to be proven wrong. And I guess it's that kind of childhood comfort thing, you know?
Yes, I understand, yeah.
Like, back when I was a kid, and it was comforting as a kid, believing in that. And the older I've gotten, the more I question things and see, I guess, the horror of life, the beauty of life too, but the horrors of it too. And you're kind of like, ugh, you're believing in fairy tales. It's kind of when you stop believing in the tooth fairy and stuff like that.
Indeed,
but as a kid, you wish the tooth fairy still exists. You're like, no, I want the tooth fairy to still exist. So it's that. So I kind of know, but part of me still kind of hopes to be proven wrong.
It's like my mother always says that. She always says that Christmas is for children and for women, because women always really like to, in my opinion, they always really get excited about Christmas. Do you know what I mean? You know,
I don't.
Really? Oh, that's
Shopping.
interesting.
I didn't even have a tree up. I mean, I normally had like a 2-foot plastic tree up that I dig out of the cupboard, but I didn't even do that this year.
Oh, really?
Well, might be to do with the fact that my mum's Jewish as well. Maybe that's a little bit of something for it. I mean, I was raised Christian, but because things were difficult for her, she raised me Christian because she had like a mixed background. Her father was Christian and her mother was Jewish, but she was raised Jewish up until the age of 10, but she got bullied for it, so then she was raised Christian.
So she didn't want to experience the same things that she did when she was growing up.
Yeah, pretty much. But I think it was more just so I don't get bullied and whatever. But we're both. But she's not really religious anyway, so she doesn't kind of believe in any of it. I mean, she eats bacon. That's how religious she is. You know, she's, you know, she. I guess she's more of a deist. She's more like.
Yeah.
She believes in God, but she doesn't think God kind of influences anything.
Well, it's kind of similar to my parents. Actually. Well, my father, he's an atheist, but his father, he was part of the, the Orange Order in Ireland.
Oh.
So you know they march through the streets, and it's always in the news every year about these people marching through the streets. So he was part of the Orange Order, and I think it was the way his father used to try and indoctrinate him that led him to his own atheism. My father, but my mother's in the same position that your mother is. She wants to be. She says there's a God, even though she doesn't practice any particular religion. So she's an agnostic theist as well, or deist, if you will.
It's like we don't celebrate anything, either of her backgrounds. It's just very much a nice big like dinner, Yorkshire pud, chicken, and all of that, and stuff, and all of that, and presents. And apart from that, that's the extent of our Christmas. It's that Watch It's a Wonderful Life, things like that. That's kind of Christmas. That's as Christmassy as we get.
This is how it is in England, is it? I mean, religion is just something that's not even talked about anymore.
Even though we have a national religion, it's there.
dying,
It's more of it's a comforting thing, but it's not part of your life. Like with America, you don't have a national religion, and yet Christianity is so extreme there. Like whenever I hear tales of how extreme people believe, like they believe in creationism, I don't think hardly anybody in England believes in creationism. I think everyone believes in evolution here.
There is a creationist museum in England, you know.
Oh God, no!
There is.
No!
Isn't it? I believe there's one in here in America. There's one in Kentucky, I believe, where this I don't know if you know him, but he goes by the name of Ken Ham.
Oh God, yes. Oh, what an idiot!
he's the one that he's the one that thinks. Yeah,
so
he's the one. Yeah, he's the one that thinks that dinosaurs walked the earth at the same time humans did, and
it's like if you had a kid like that at school who came out with that stuff, their head would be so fat down the toilet of like, you're an idiot. You're just an idiot.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I was as surprised as anyone to learn there was a creationist museum in England.
Oh, and Bill Nye, I bet, debated him. It's like just this intelligent man debating an idiot. It's just.
Oh man!
Yeah, I stayed up to watch that debate live. The Bill Nye debate. Yeah, it was pretty good.
I'm just laughing again. And
But it's, I mean, how many millions of dollars has he spent on that creationist museum?
Oh God, it's like the biggest scam. So I'm allowed to say that, but it just seems like the biggest.
It is. Well, that's what religion is. It's just a big scam, isn't it?
You know, take people's money.
But actually, like, how much he must be raking in from that nonsense?
Well,
I'm going to set up a religion according to I don't know Terry Pratchett's Discworld, and we have to follow that and see if that becomes a thing. You must believe in the great Artuin that the world is held up by 4 elephants upon a turtle. Yeah. And that there's a death of rats. I want that to be a thing. It's as logical as anything else that's been brought up in religion.
Yeah. And from what I understand, Ken Ham is actually losing money with that museum that he's got going on over there.
Oh, what a shame.
Nobody wants to go to it.
I mean, you got the curiosity factor. You've got people when it was first opened. I mean, you probably had more atheists attend than you did theists, to be fair, just to laugh, really. But
just to see, or just to see what the displays are like. Let's see, kind of like how they do the whole Noah's Ark and all of that.
I did watch a video of them building some of the exhibits, and they were pretty good. You know what I mean? You can tell that money. You could tell that money had been spent there, but it's just the things that they were trying to dig people were just absolutely rubbish. That dinosaurs. Even though they had teeth, as big as your finger, and as sharp as a razor,
Did they have unicorns there as well? Oh, please tell me they had unicorns
no
there
unicorn.
too. Aww.
Yeah, but there's
Why no unicorns? Like, you think there's a talking snake and no unicorns? That just makes me sad. I want to see a talking unicorn. I want the laser beams coming out of that unicorn's like horn. That's what I want.
freaking laser beams attached to their heads.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta understand. Jesus was carrying a T-Rex into the boat.
They must have done. Yeah.
That's what I would do. I would volunteer at that museum just so I could move everything about. Like, put a T-Rex right on the boat and just put out a place.
Put one of the models of the humans, like, inside the mouth of a dinosaur and things.
Yeah.
Bobby
at the bookshop put the Bible in the fiction section.
Yeah. Bobby in the chat said that it costed Ken Ham $102 million to build that.
Oh my God. And when you think of how many people, even just within the United States, how many children and things are starving and they have no clothes, and he's spending $102 million on crap.
God, I mean, we have food banks in England now. Think of like how many food banks could be opened with that.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, they have the similar thing. I was watching the Atheist Experience the other day, and there was a guy. I don't know what state he was in. It must have been somewhere down in Austin, Texas. Where he was from, and he was doing the same thing. He was going out and giving, those who were struggling. I think it was those who were struggling with medical things. Like they did one guy who he was in a wheelchair. He'd recently got a wheelchair, and they'd gone and they'd built a wheelchair ramp up to his apartments and things like that for those who didn't have the income. So similar things happened in the United States. It happens over here. I mean, I think food banks are a bigger thing in America than they are over here. They're, in my view, they're quite recent.
It's a big thing in the Northeast because there's still kind of a vacuum since the mines closed, which was a long time ago, but it's now generations and generations of people who still haven't had work since then.
Yeah.
Like, the generations of people who've never worked. But
generally you find it's like churches and things that run in these food banks. But I mean, that's the only thing they've got left over here now. They've nobody to attend their
I have to say that's one good thing. One good thing I can say about churches, like the local Salvation Army do the food bank, and they seem like nice people and all of that, and they do try to get us to come because we go there. We attend like me and Mum go to the jumble sale there quite a lot, and they're nice people, but we kind of say it's not our thing. Religion's not our thing.
We got a person in the chat. We got a person in the chat that says the only thing that they want is Jesus bacon.
Jesus bacon. Oh, don't get me started on the cannibalism and the vampirism of the church. Right? Drink.
Oh, I know, right? They're all a bunch of what do they call them? Cannibalistic vampires.
Yeah, with their zombie Jew. Their zombie Jew.
Drink some blood and eat some flesh.
He wanted to come back. You don't want him to come back. He's going to want your brains. Brains. Jesus wants brains. Sorry.
I know. He's over there lumbering around, the planet like a zombie. Brains. Oh, man.
I just feel like that's still like, it feels like a Roger Corman film with like brains, like Jesus wants brains.
Oh man. Let's see. Forbidden Thinker, do you want to come in for a little bit before I shut the show down? You're more than welcome to. Anybody that wants to come in, link is in the description. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this conversation. Stella, I believe this is the first time that I've talked to you.
It is. Like I've watched a while.
Yeah. I talked to you on Twitter a little bit.
Yeah.
I see back and forth, yeah.
Yeah, when I'm like whoring my book out. Like they're whoring So that'll appear in your feed, and I apologize, and I'm like, my book now out, like that all the time. But yeah, like I do, like it's interesting following like your tweets and that, and everything that's going on, and it's nice to catch the live chats, because normally, like when the live things are up, it's usually just aired, so now I get to hear it live and I get to chat, so it's nice. It's nice.
This is the first time I've ever done a Google Hangout. I've said that, didn't I, in the emails back and forth to you, John, that it's the first time I've ever done something like that. I mean, I've had Skype calls with people, but nothing like.
Yeah. Okay, we have someone in the call now. Who is lived? Identify yourself.
My name's Julius. How you doing, my man?
Hello.
Oh, okay.
Welcome, Jules.
How's it going, guys?
How's it going?
Pretty good. Born day. I checked on YouTube. I have nothing on TV. I look on YouTube. I see you guys got a chat going. I'm always interested in, geopolitical, religious discussions, especially late at night. Called the midlife crisis.
Yeah. Are you subscribed to my channel by any chance?
Not yet, but I'm pretty certain as soon as we get off the call here, I will be subscribing.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, guaranteed. Because sorry.
You got anything that you would like to talk about with us here?
Well, I'm based off of the title of the video, I assumed this was a quasi-religious discussion, or
Yeah, it was.
like that.
Yeah. When I have this particular show, it's a little more structured compared to the other hangouts that I have. When I have this show now, I bring a guest on, and me and the guest talk for a while, and then after that, I open the hangout to other people that want to come in and maybe have a conversation with the guest.
Nice.
Whatever yeah.
Okay.
So if there's anything that comes to mind as far as a topic is concerned, let us know and have a chat.
Okay. Well, are you suggesting that I get off now, or?
No, we want you to stay, man. Well, what it was, is because the actual subject matter of the hangout was Gnostic atheism. So I believe that there is no God. I'm not an agnostic like most theists. I don't know what your position on the existence of God is.
Well, I clearly, I make no bones about it. I believe in God, but I'd like you to take that with a grain of salt if you could, because there's a lot of people who say they believe in God who, at least on the Christian side of the house, there's a lot of imposters. I'm sure it is in every religion, but there's a lot of imposters. When you look on TV,
are you 100% sure that God exists, or?
I didn't understand the question. Say that again.
Are you 100% sure that God exists? Or?
Oh yeah. So like no wiggle room for me at all.
So you're completely the other end of the spectrum from me. You're a Gnostic theist then.
Yeah, but however, even though I'm the completely other end of the spectrum, I'm not what you may, okay, so when you tend to see people who say that they believe in God, especially today, they tend to be kind of unreasonable.
Yes.
Yes. Some of them tend to be on the verge of some type of psychosis, really. I'm not one of these. I'm not someone who is unreasonable. In law, we have the reasonable person standard. What would a reasonable person think or do under similar circumstances? These people, a lot of them that you guys, especially on the internet, may see, they just drive you insane. You got some of them saying that they're putting saddles on dinosaurs like we were riding them like horses. It's all types of insanity. And these same people, because they may wear a cross or, say they're Catholic or something, then for those of you who don't believe in God, it's kind of impossible for you not to say that everybody who believes these Christians, they're all morons. And, my interest in conversations like this is to show, like, no, I believe something completely different from you, but I'm reasonable. We could still have a conversation. We can get along.
I don't believe that anybody is a moron just because they believe in a God. I believe that they may they have deep set feelings about there being a God, but I don't believe that they're in any way, you know, less intelligent just because they do believe in a God. And
I appreciate that.
to me, you shouldn't do that. Just because you hold an opinion doesn't, you know, have any reflect upon that person's intellect at all. It's just the reasoning why they
Right.
hold that opinion is what's of substantive importance to me. The reason why they hold that position.
Gotcha. So I appreciate that. Well, for me, my belief is, this is probably going to throw you for a loop, but my belief is it wasn't constant. When I was young, I actually used to despise. I used to actually get visibly pissed off when people would mention God to me or say things like, "Hey, kid, I gotta, let's pray for you," or something like that. I used to get pissed.
So you used to
And
be an
I understand.
anti-theist then?
No, I was a hater. I was what I make the assumption about many people who are, on that side, especially when they're young. It might have been because I was young, I don't know, but it wasn't like I didn't believe in God exists. I was angry at him and I used to curse him. I was like, I was beyond the typical teenage rebellion. Like I was a hater, literally. I was a hater. Like I would, my chest would bubble up anytime someone mentioned God, and whenever there were like jokes against him or Christians, Jews, whatever, any, theist people, I used to find myself getting happy at my own hatred, and, through the course of life, I was either blessed or cursed. I don't know. Depends on how you look at it. But a lot of things happened that revealed to me personally that the God that my grandfather served was true.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course of time and me actually reading the ancient text for myself instead of getting it from a priest or actually listening to anything that comes out of the Vatican, to be honest, when I started to read myself and understand what I was looking at, in accordance with some major things that happened in my life, combat, running the streets, all types of stuff, I developed a healthy fear for God Almighty. But I ain't no holy roller by any stretch.
Okay.
By any stretch. In fact, if I died today, I have every reason to fear that I might not make it in. Some priests tell you that means, you got a good chance because you have fear. Some people tell you that, you got work to do. I don't know that any of them know what the hell they're talking about. Like, who can make a determination for God?
Do you think it's reasonable to have fear for a God?
Oh, absolutely. Not only reasonable, well, when you ask me, is it reasonable to me as a person? Before I started believing, it probably seemed unreasonable. This used to drive my hate. Like one of my main gripes was, how can a God that's supposed to be loving and this, that, and the other allow this to happen, let this happen to me, let this happen? You know what I mean? So it was unreasonable.
Yes.
When I actually read the ancient text and understood what it meant about fear of God, and I understood that there's a gap in the diction, in the actual wording, between then and now. The fear that they used, they actually meant reverence, like, what reverence means. Reverence,
Yeah.
So that's what they actually meant. And then as I, matured as a man, I start to see that it not only makes sense, it was, it humbled me. After all, this is the God of the universe, stamp you out like an ant at any time. You should have reverence, and I mean, whether it's true, whether I'm right or others are right, to me, I always say we all got a ticket. Some of us are going to wind up there sooner than we think. Some of us are going to be great-great-grandparents and then check out. But the bottom line is we all got a ticket. And everybody's going to cross the threshold when that final breath leaves your body. And we're going to find out whether there's nothing on the side or whether, oh my goodness, what a mistake we've made. Like Anton LaVey, like, Yeah, I don't make judgments. I'm just saying my belief comes out of a renewed fear and recognizing that me as a young man, and I was
do you think that a God who you should fear is worthy of your worship?
Well, again, fear being really what it meant was reverence. I think the God of the universe, the God of the Bible, should be revered by someone like me. And I think because of the things that I've done in my life, and I'm not being clandestine with you guys, I'll tell you, but I'm trying not to run my mouth too much. The things I've done in my life and the amazing amount of tolerance and mercy he had to have with me to get to this point suggests to me I should be fearful.
So do you think that your past is, you've been saved from how you were in your past by your belief in God?
Well, champ, I hope so. I don't know if I've been saved, quote unquote, like you see the holy rollers rolling around.
Yeah.
Because I do a great deal of setting. I'm more conscious of it now, and I try to, I'm trying to clean up and right this ship before I turn 40. I'm 36 now.
Oh, you said much as me then.
Yeah, I'm at the age, this is the age where we realize God, I'm a fucked up person. I got to turn this around, So I'm at that stage. I wouldn't say I'm saved, but I hope to be.
Would you say that, let me put it differently, would you say that God has changed you as a person?
Yes. Well, here's why. I say yes, but I'm saying yes based on scripture alone. When I look at my life, one of my main gripes, or one of my main, I guess you could say, complaints to him or something is, why haven't I been changed yet? Because according to the ancient text, it says he gives you a new mind, a new heart. He has your being go through an epiphany moment, and you basically start straightening up. Yeah, that's what the scripture says.
So you've found a great sense of morality and worth from reading scripture, then?
Yes, I guess you could say that. I can't disagree with that.
Interesting. I've to be on a different note there. I got the same, a similar feeling from watching Star Wars or reading the Star Wars novels. You know what I mean? Does that then mean that because I've read that book that I should then fall and start to believe that the Star Wars is real? Do you know what I mean? I don't know how you make the difference between this book that I've read, it sounds, like it's helping me, and I feel that these lessons in these scriptures have make sense, and then go to God, and then I don't know how you make the connection from the good moral stories that you might read within the scriptures to it being then associating it with God, just because it is a nice moral story and it does bring you peace, if you will, you know what I mean, from like what you used to be. I don't see how it follows that it must be God. I don't know how you make that connection. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, to me, I do see what you're saying. Like I actually used to, that was my position at 17. The thing about it is I've actually read much of the text. Not all, because the Bible isn't a novel that you read from back to front. But I've actually read much of the text. And for instance, when you say good morals, like I know moral stories, we all do. We've read literature where they have some overarching theme, whatever. But in the Bible, exactly what would be an example of a good moral story? Because I see them as much more dense than that. Like, in other words, whatever goodness of whatever moral story in the Bible that you may read of, it's much more dense than just a feel-good, moral story. Don't do this is bad. What would be an example? Because all the examples that I'm aware of are so profound that they've affected my worldview.
Exactly. Well,
and I don't get that from reading Shakespeare or anything.
I was just going to say that. I mean, reading some book can have a profound change upon you. Not just the Bible. Any good literature can have a really good, a really profound influence on you. But that's not to say that the author was writing from some divine position. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
well, I know exactly. I agree with you 100%. And again, that used to be my position. It's just that when I compare that to the Bible, I mean, if you pick any example, think of any example that, you know, I'm not so disrespectful as to come onto a channel and challenge someone, or, you know, something like that. I don't mean to sound like a prick, but I'm saying if you pick any story within the Bible that you may know of or think you know of, pick one, and I guarantee you'll see whatever morality is taught in that story is much more dense, much more complex, and much more far-reaching than any other book on earth that you've ever read. Like, there is no comparable. What lessons are perceived through biblical stories that you find in anywhere else? Plato's writings, Socrates' writings, Kemet in Egypt, where? Confucius, like there's nothing comparable to it. And furthermore, there's nothing that has the consequences that the Bible speaks to.
I agree that the Bible is probably the most influential book that's ever existed. But I don't see how people can say that it is better than any other, you know, source of morality or any, you know, other book that exists just because it isn't the Bible. Do you see what I mean? I mean,
I see what you mean.
I don't want to use the example, but I mean, most people seem to be that when they read the Bible, they're reading it through rose-colored glasses. If you know the term,
I get you 100%.
So I mean,
cherry picking.
Not cherry picking, not cherry picking at all. You want to find something within the book to, you know, give you that feeling, and then just the act of wanting to find it means that you will find it, rather than it actually being something that is actually there for all to see. I mean, the feeling and the revelations that you've probably picked up while you've been reading the Bible is probably a different feeling than somebody else gets. You know what I mean? Everybody who reads the Bible will probably get their own take on what they're reading in that Bible.
Well, you know, I'm of the, and you know, I guess these so-called holy rollers, they get mad at me for saying this, but I'm of the position, again, a lot of people who say that they believe this, that, and the other, they're much more than charlatans. They're doing something actually almost malicious, because they know that they don't believe. They know that they could care less. They know they're almost akin to, you know, someone on the opposing side, someone who actually hates God. Like, they know that even according to the text, it calls them vipers, that they're useless. You know, it says, don't even pray to them. You have your reward already. You know that you don't really believe.
You mean they're just going over
through the
motions?
motions.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
I know exactly what you mean.
So you're more likely to run into those type of people than you are likely to run into someone who is concerned about what happens when they step over the threshold of death. You're more likely to run into the imposters, the Creflo Dollars, the Joel Osteens, and, you know, these type of people. More likely. You know?
Your Ken Hams and things like that. Because I don't believe Ken Ham is a believer myself at all. I think he's just a charlatan who's after people's money. If you know who Ken Ham is, I'm sure.
Right. And there are people gullible enough to do it. You gotta real, at least in my country, you got people who they profess outright evil and will tell you that they believe in the God of love. You know, so look, at the end of the day, God is not mocked. God is not fooled. And look, death is a checkout day for everybody. So, you know, if it's all true, you know, God is a just God. You're not going to be a lying little weasel full of hate, bigotry, and all types of stuff in your chest, and then just put a cross around your neck. And when you step over to the other side, that he's going to ignore that.
So many people are doing it for a reward, though, like following a belief system just so they can get like the whole heaven reward at the end.
Just as an insurance policy, you mean?
Take a good person.
But the people who do that obviously haven't read a lick of the ancient texts at all. You guys would know more about the Bible than the people who are of that opinion. That is not a reverence. That is not a fear of God. What that is trying to be coy. That's literally taking God for a sucker, like a fool. And you have to be some type of arrogant chump whose mind is completely overran by your maliciousness to the point where you don't exercise reason. So the God of the universe here, the only deity that I know of in all of human history, said something in the ancient text that stuck with me since I was a kid, even when I used to hate him. He said, Isaiah, I believe. Well, now we got Google, so you can type in a sentence and it'll take you straight to the verse. But it went something like this. He said, literally, quote, "Come, let us reason." That's how the sentence begins. And this is God talking. You mean to tell me the God of the universe actually says, calm down, let's talk about this, let's reason. And it goes on to say, though your sins may be as red as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. He's basically saying, be reasonable. I'm God of the universe. If I really was as overbearing as they think, none of you would exist. I'd vaporize you now. Let us reason.
That's great. I mean, if that could happen, and if God...
That did happen. That's in Isaiah.
Well, all we've got is a book. You know what I mean? I mean,
right.
There's lots of other books that says, like I give the example earlier of Star Wars, that, if just because it's written in that book doesn't mean to say that it was true. And if, like you say, God is the most powerful being in the universe, why should we have to believe in him? He should just be able to make it known to us that he is. If he's really concerned for us to enter the eternal glory of heaven, then it wouldn't be hard for someone who's all-powerful to make his presence known to us on an individual basis that would convince us outright that, it's the way that he's real and this is the way that we have to be. But
now
all we have is the account of a book that was written thousands of years ago. And to me, we would need more.
I think to any reason.
The issue I have with,
okay.
Sorry. The issue I kind of have with Christianity in particular, is, as lovely as many Christians are, it's the fact that the book kind of condemns people like me who are bisexual because I've engaged in homosexual acts. I am therefore condemned to the fight I am condemned, I'm considered irredeemable.
Not true. Whoever told you that is...
A rapist would be...
Whoever told you that in the Bible.
Would be forgiven. I would be condemned.
It does say it says it in the Bible.
What it actually said, and obviously I'm not Jewish, but growing up Catholic here in Queens, you lean Christian, obviously, and then I admit I emancipated myself from Vatican doctrine because it's full of lies. But what it actually, for us, at least on the Christian perspective, the New Testament is where it ends for us. We don't deny the Old Testament. In fact, it's part of it. But within the New Testament, when whether you believe or not, I'm just speaking from my own, faith, I guess. When the king was here himself, the man, the final showdown, final act, when Jesus got here, what was actually said was, many of you were, he didn't say homosexual. I think he said, many of you used to lie with men. Many of you were adulterers. Many of you were this. When he said that, he was speaking to his apostles, like the people who he had already said, you guys are going to be my number one team. He told them, he said, many of you were gay. Many of you were whoremongers. Many of you were thieves, murderers. So Paul made his living.
Why is that a bad thing? I don't understand how someone loving someone, like two grown adults loving each other, how that's a bad thing versus something that's not condemned, in that book, which is raping a child.
That is not true. That is because, okay, so here's the premise behind that. If any of these things, so if I was going to speak about nuclear physics, which I know nothing about, I was a U.S. Marine. I used to fire mortars and machine guns, but I know nothing about nuclear weapons. If I was going to speak about how a reactor works or how, the yield of an ICBM or something like this, I'd be a moron. I'd be laughed to the corner. A lot of times when it comes to the actual facts about the ancient texts, not the religions, not these Episcopalian, these Catholics these days, what does the text say? When you read what the text says and you hear the rhetoric from people who are so opposed to it, one, you can't get mad at the people who have anti-biblical rhetoric, because look at the morons that are represented. Like we just said, the Creflo Dollars, Olsteins, Ham, and all, these idiots. So you can't get mad at them. But if you care and you can have like this discourse with people, then you can explain your position without trying to get them, oh, you need to come to Jesus, and that's disrespect. You don't do that. In fact, the Bible says there's even no need for that. It says the sheep know his voice, and he does make it apparent to each person. There's no way that a religion like that or a faith like that can exist among reasonable people if all they have is words to read. I know that's not the case for me.
If we come back to what you were saying about homosexuality, though.
About homosexuality, what he said is, many of you were like this, and you were cleansed, forgiven.
That's not what the Bible says, though, is it? I mean,
that is exactly what it says.
It isn't.
I mean, I've got.
Can I?
I'll try to find it for you. I gotta get
Can I say a couple of things real quick, guys?
Sure.
We have two new people on the panel: Forbidden Thinker and Angry Hairpiece. Also, I would like to,
angry.
if you guys feel that you want to say something on the panel, go right ahead. You guys are more than welcome to. The second thing that I want to mention from Bobby in the chat, he says that Revelation 21:8 condemns all sexuality.
Oh, well, that's me done for. I'm done for. Bye, guys.
Yeah,
Corinthians as well.
Hold on. Yeah, he says Revelation 21:8 condemns all sexuality, immoral, and to a fiery hell.
Well, pray for me, guys. Pray for me.
So, Forbidden Thinker or Angry Hairpiece, do you guys have anything you want to say?
Well, I was just listening into the conversations that you were having, and currently right now, I thought I was going to say something, but I actually kind of forgot about it.
How about you, Angry Hairpiece? Angry, are you there? You have to unmute yourself, Angry. I guess he stepped away from the computer for a minute.
Yeah, it seems like he did step away from the computer for a bit.
I love his name, though. That's a great name.
Yeah, Angry.
Well, originally, Angry Hairpiece used to have an avatar of just, I don't know what kind of avatar. It's just a plain avatar.
I'm here. I'm just cooking dinner. I'll be back. Hold on.
All right.
You hear that? Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, originally he used to have an avatar that was just a plain avatar with the Trump wig on it from Donald Trump.
That's more of a dead hairpiece. It's more of a dead hairpiece. It's like, I don't know, like I'm one of Amber's brothers or sisters, like dead, so like a dead cat on the head.
Yeah, but Trump isn't funny anymore.
Yeah. Oh,
Was he ever funny?
He'll always be funny.
Was he ever funny?
Yeah. I think so.
I think that we have to define the difference between funny and ridiculous, because I don't think those two are actually.
Well, it's satire, isn't it? It's you've got to have something ridiculous thing, therefore you have satire, therefore you have comedy. It's you've got to have the extremes. It's so you can kind of think, oh, here, this is what's rational, this is what is ludicrous, and yeah.
But I would like to know your thoughts. What was your name, Lived? What's your name again?
Julius.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, there's an individual in the chat. He said that Revelation 21:8 condemns all sexuality immoral and to a fiery hell. What do you think of that?
What I think it was talking about all immoral sexual acts. You know, it would be insane for the Bible to condemn all sexuality. They were talking about what, I guess, you know, what they seen as depravity, I guess. And that would include, you know, bestialities, homosexuality, you know, all of this type of stuff. But
why is homosexuality lumped in with bestiality? Like,
no. So please understand that. Please understand. I just sound and look like a moron. When I say I just sound and look like a moron, but I'm not divorced from reality in my mind or heart. When I say bestiality, I didn't mean equating the two. They are. There's no way you can equate a lesbian, you know, a gay woman, gay guy, with someone who has sex with sheep or cow. Like, to me, there's no connection at all. All I'm saying is when it mentions what it terms as sexual immorality, these are the type of things it's talking about. It's not saying the two are synonymous, the same, or anything. You know, I didn't mean it like that. Sorry.
Do you not think that you're just making excuses now for the passages that are in the Bible? I mean, that was pretty clear that any homosexuality means you go into the fiery pits of hell.
I mean, no, I'm not denying his opposition to it. I mean, he burned 2 cities to the ground because of it way back when. I'm not denying his opposition to it. What I am highlighting.
There are worse things in the world than that. And in fact, it's not even, for me, it's not a sin at all. I mean, I questioned it growing up. I mean, it was very difficult for me because I'm bisexual. So for a long time, I thought I was just a lesbian until I realized I found men attractive as well. So I'm like that, you know, so imagine reading the Bible and saying you're a bad person. And
here's what I would
God, and thinking
no one's ever
God thinks I'm a bad person for that.
Well, I'm not sure that that's what it says. But what it does specifically say when it talks about, quote unquote, the worst, like if you look at, you compare it to the judicial system, the worst crimes or whatever, what it actually said, what he actually said verbatim when he was here in the flesh, he looked at the so-called holy rollers, who were the ones who set him up and delivered him to be executed twice. He looked at the holy rollers, the ones who got it together, the ones who, you know, they run the temple. He looked at them and said, you den of vipers, your lot in hell will be worse than anyone. He didn't say that to the homosexuals or the liars or, you know, regular people who even curse him. He said that to the holy rollers who run around every day talking God this, God that. We need to make that perfectly clear before we start making sweeping indictments. He spoke to what he deems as the worst. And what he deems as the worst are those who actually know about him, those who actually claim to profess about him, but they're really scumbags on the low.
So these people were going to get worse punishment. But
absolutely. That's straight from the king's mouth.
Even the homosexuals are going to burn in hell, but these holy rollers, as you say, are going to get worse punishment.
Well, he said it clearly. He called them vipers, and he said, your lot in hell, I think he said, will be worse than anyone.
But I mean, you've still got this problem that homosexuals are in the New Testament, like you said earlier. It was only in the Old Testament, which we've just shown. I mean, that was one example.
That's not what we said. That's not what I said, at least.
Well, you said
want my position to be.
Oh yeah, I don't want to straw man you, but you said I'm not Jewish, so I don't know about the Jewish faith, referring to the Old Testament. But it's in the New Testament as well.
It's still an important part.
It is part of this. I mean, we spoke earlier ourselves, didn't we, John? That Jesus himself says, "I didn't come to change any of the laws in the Old Testament. I came to fulfill them."
And it wasn't Christianity. Christianity was the one that created hell. Jews don't have a hell as such. That's very much a Christian thing.
You know something? Again, this is where we get into the weeds, because there's a difference between what the church teaches and what the ancient text teaches. And academia over the past easy 300 years has not recognized that distinction. So,
why do you think there's a difference between a book that's supposed to be the divine word of God?
Well, I think it's a difference because with my own reason and common sense, I can see there's a difference between the church that I was taught
But
as a kid.
if this book is supposed to be the divine word of God, then it shouldn't be that one person views it differently than another. It should be the same for everybody. Do you see what I mean?
I agree with you 100%. What I will compare it to is politics. So I live in the United States of America, in which we have the Constitution and all that great stuff, and Washington, D.C. And I can tell you in my country, especially over the past 3 years, you will have open fascists, beyond regular bigots, open fascists tell you how much they love democracy, freedom, liberty, this, that, and the other, and hold up the Constitution to your face and say, I'm a defender of the Constitution. But you know a fascist when you see one. You know a scumbag when you see one. So I don't know why, when it comes to quote unquote religious topics, it's hard for certain people to see there's a distinction between what the text actually says, like what the Constitution actually says, and then there's so-called institutions that are called churches.
You're comparing a man-made document with a document that's supposed to be written by the hand of God.
What I'm doing is I'm trying to make an example for someone who doesn't believe in God to understand my position. So the best way to do that in my mind was to bring it back to an ideology that, because people who don't believe in God just see the religious thing as an ideology.
But
so
man is fallible. I mean, God is obviously been defined by Atheists as infallible. So if this
he is infallible. But that wasn't the basis behind what I said. The basis behind what I said was, you asked essentially, why is there a distinction between the text and the institutions?
Yeah.
And what I was getting to was saying it's always been a distinction. Furthermore, not only when Christ was here did he say, you den of vipers, talking about the holy rollers, but there's very few times in the Bible where God actually says he hates something. And ironically, one of the things that he said, I hate, is religion. That's what he said. In fact, when he came here, the only people that Christ, this loving Christ who's going to be so bloody when he comes back, the only people that he actually got physically violent with were the holy rollers in the church.
Yeah, but
the only people.
The New Testament was written by people that wanted to steer people from Judaism. So of course the Jews are the villain. They wouldn't write the Jews as good guys.
Jesus was a Jew.
Yes.
Jesus was a Jew. You know?
See, I would like to bring up something real quick. And that's something that he just said about Jesus hating religion. I'd like to bring up that if it wasn't for religion, nobody would even know who Jesus was. You wouldn't even know his name.
I mean, to me, that's a
or anything like it.
I mean, how can you disagree with you? I guess if we didn't have the Bible, this wouldn't even be a discussion. You know, so on its face, you're right. I don't know how it's relevant, but you are right. And like, no reasonable person could deny what you just said.
Well, yeah, another point I want to bring up as well is, you say you started reading the Bible and everything started to make sense for you, and you know, you could have picked up any other holy book, and you know, such as you know, the Quran or the teachings of Buddha.
No, I couldn't have.
Why not? Is it geographically where you were born stopping you?
No, and nor is it a racist position. I'm in New York City. I'm in Queens specifically. Have a very healthy Muslim and Jewish population. I have friends just like this too, from a kid, from PS55. So it's not a racial position. I mean, like a bigotry type thing, and it's not some because I grew up in North America.
No. What I'm saying is,
I'll explain. I'll tell you directly why my position is like that. If we're going to talk about, to me, if I'm going to reason to talk about a God that I'm going to believe in, like, you know, after I'm 10 toes up, you know, where am I going to go? Then I'm going to go with the most ancient source. I'm not going to go with these 2.0 versions.
Then why go with the Bible? Because that's not the most ancient source.
So to me, when I talk to Muslims up,
or the ancient sort of ancient Egyptian religion. Like there's a lot of ancient religions.
Well, to me, integrity matters. And if you go to any Muslim, and ask them to describe to you who is Abraham. Okay? And when I'm assuming, I know you guys know, because you guys actually have this show and you talk about this, so I know you guys know the story. But you ask them who is Abraham, and then you'll understand why I go with seniority rather than the new stuff. Furthermore, you ask them who is Jesus, and they will tell you that they acknowledge who Jesus is. They will tell you that he's just a prophet, just like the Jews. So here's the thing. Either God's a liar or he isn't. Because what he said is he's the Son of God. And so if he's lying, then he's a blasphemer and he should be denied and cursed by both Jews and Muslims, but neither one of them deny or curse him. So to me, I'll stick with the Bible.
It's because they saw something that works and they fucking tweaked it to where they had their own version of it.
The bottom line, look, if you don't believe, then, that's your persuasion. But if you learn about it, just like in literature or geopolitics, if you learn about it, then it's easier to make an informed, decision. And all I'm saying is
I have no reason to believe.
Well, thankfully, we've reached that point in society where nobody's trying to burn you at the stake for that. That's, like I said, like all of these people.
Give them 10 years.
All these people, what they're actually working on is the opposite. They're working on ostracizing anybody who believes in God, period. They want you to be seen as unreasonable. In other words, as soon as you wear a cross or Star of David or something like this, they want it to get to the point where you then can disavow that person's humanity. They're a complete moron.
Just mocked until people stop believing. That's all. We're not pushing anything down their throat. We just think they're funny.
No, please. You guys allowed me on your panel. I'm not here to indict. I'm thankful that they're reasonable people you can have a conversation with. Okay, so don't take this, personally insulting. Like, I'm 36 years old. You see these grays? I'm not here to be a troll, man. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, nobody's here is trying to convince you out of your religion. Yeah. What we're interested in,
and I'm part troll for sure.
We're interested in the reasons why you chose to believe rather than your beliefs themselves. Do you understand what we mean? Like I was trying to say, why the Bible? Why not other religion? Why?
You do realize, though, when you have a conversation with someone who has a true fear of God, like a true belief in God, you do realize there's always going to be a event horizon, if you will, a point in which they step off, and because you do not have the knowledge of the text or faith that they have, that at some point, they're going to be at a point where it's unreachable for you. You realize that?
No. Where does it stem? What started your path to believing what you believe?
Well, I was fortunate enough to have a grandfather who I seen him live it. So I have that reference.
What does that mean?
Once I came out of the stupidity of my darkness. When I say stupidity, because I'm still pretty dark, but I mean my open, outright venom that I would spit towards God and my hatred. I used to revel in it. Like I call them now the delightfully hateful. Like when I came out of that, it was a little bit easier for me. I got to cheat a little bit because I didn't have to grope my way.
No, I don't understand what you meant by seeing him live it.
I think he's having some connection issues.
Oh, yeah, I was like, am I still here? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Camera should work.
Oh, he left. Oh, there he is. All right.
Oh, he's back.
That's not a problem.
So
Google Plus has actually been acting funny for some reason. I don't know. It was the Russians, man. They hacked us.
They need to get a life. Then. They need to get a life.
Yeah.
No, wait. Now let me ask you though. I asked a question and you didn't hear it, I think, because you dropped. What did you mean by you saw your grandfather live it? You said you were fortunate enough to see your grandfather live it. I believe that's what you said. What did you mean by that? What does that mean? He's stoned people for having extramarital affairs. I mean, like, what part of it did he live? Huh. I said part, no, not half. So he was a decent human.
I've got a question for you, if you don't mind, Jules. Um, yeah. I've got a question. I've got a question for you, Julius, if you don't mind. So I want to know what your answer is to this question. If I could prove right now that your God didn't exist, would you change your opinion? Right. Right. So you admit that there's a possibility that God couldn't exist, but if I had evidence that it didn't exist, you would change your opinion.
And think about the premise behind your question.
Mm.
What you're saying is, if I could prove that there is no God, in which you know it's impossible for you to do such.
It isn't.
What choice? It puts me in a corner, does it not? Because it forces me to acknowledge first reason. Like I said, reasonable person standard. So
Yes.
if you or anybody can prove to me that something exists or doesn't exist, for me to look you in the eye and say, you're wrong, clearly I'm unreasonable. Clearly,
Yes.
whether I'm unreasonable because I'm mentally stupid.
That's what I wanted to establish, whether you had reasonable.
But that's like a rhetorical question, and almost an arrogant rhetorical question. Not saying you're arrogant. I'm just saying that can't be done. But what do you expect me to do? You expect me for you to say, hey, Julie, look up at the sky. Is it blue or is it purple? You want me to say it's purple? You know what I mean? It makes no sense.
Yeah. Would you say that, you said you was in the Marines and you served, did you see action in...
I am a infantry Marine. I've seen action continually in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Do you think that you mentioned that your fear of God, do you think that because you was in a position where you could, you're facing life and death, that this strengthened your belief that,
No. I was too foolish. I got 14 brothers in the ground in Arlington holding formation right now. Personally. Like, of course, we have many thousands more. But I'm saying personally, I got 14 brothers in the ground between Afghanistan and Iraq. I will tell you that when I left for Parris Island, when I left Queens and I went to Parris Island, on the forms where it says list your religion, and me, since I selected infantry, the recruiters and everybody for the first year of my Marine Corps career always insisted upon make sure that we got your religious preference correct, so they know how to make the gravestone and everything should something happen.
Yes.
And at that point in life, I was still very much opposed to God. In fact, when you look on my documents, when I first went in, it says no religious preference. I wasn't going to say Satanist or something, but it said no religious preference. This was me, in a way, sticking it to God anyway. Like, I was at a very angry point in my life. And
self-destructive,
I said, hey,
if you will.
Yeah, very self-destructive. And I joined the Marine Corps in 2004 when the body bags were fresh coming home. Well, before I left, it was like wagon wheels. Like
How close were you to these brothers that you lost while you was serving?
We're in the same barracks. We party together. I know their girlfriends. I know some of their children. That close. Closer than most civilian so-called friends.
You had very, very strong camaraderie with these
We're tighter than most so-called best friends as civilians.
Do you think that seeing these brothers who passed on serving the country, do you think that your belief was strengthened in the belief that they were going on to a better place? Or?
In hindsight, perhaps, but I could tell you at the time when each one of them caught it, God was not on my mind at all. In fact, right now in my life, I look back at how many times I should have been killed. I had 6 RPGs fired at me, 2 IEDs I'm personally involved in. This is how I got medically stepped out. And I think about going through all of that. Cat Sparrow, who had damn near 80% body burns. We're drinking at the bar afterwards. I think about going through all of that and thinking about how God never crossed my mind, and at any given time, I should have been killed. I've been pinned down. I had a Marine shot trying to cover me. He's alive. I call him 50 Cent.
It was more for,
I didn't think about
empathy.
God back then.
It was more for empathy for your fellow, even if it wasn't for your own soul, it was for
you seem compelled, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem compelled to want to believe that because of the life or death situations of an infantry Marine,
I want to know
that's what pushed my faith. I'm telling you that is not the case. All of this came post enlistment.
Right.
My revelation came post.
I'm just trying to get to the bottom of why you hold these.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It was not the Marine Corps. It should have been. You would think I would have been smart enough to realize, hey, kid, every day you go out on this patrol, there's a good chance that
you don't come back.
Yeah, you would think that would compel me to turn more to the faith of my grandfather. I'm telling you, I was too much a fool to do that. I had one Marine that I could think of, Chandler. He was the only Marine. He was a machine gunner, and ironically, he was the first one to get a kill. The only Marine that I knew of that I served with who was adamant about his faith the way I am now. He was the only one. And I didn't ignore him, but I knew what he was talking about because of my grandfather. But again, I was too, I had the dark clouds around me, so I didn't want to hear it. And you would think going through so many life or death situations that it would dawn on me to say, hey, maybe you better tighten up and make your peace with God. I'm telling you.
Did you have the same feelings about him, when you used to say that anybody mentioned God, it used to make you angry? Did you have that same feelings about?
At that point, no. At that point, no, because
so
I was
weakened at that point. You'd softened to the idea of it at that point.
I wouldn't call it softened at all. What it was is I was starting to mature. I was crossing the threshold of 25 years old, where you stop being a petulant little child shaking your fist at the sky. Even though I didn't ascribe as much to my faith then as I do now, I was turning 25 years old, so I was starting to shut up and listen, and just stay back. If it's not for me, it's not for me. But
Do you attend a church?
I do not.
Regular?
I haven't been to mass. I haven't been to mass in probably 5 years.
Right. I see. So you're not part of any organized religion right at the minute, but
No.
You've got
No.
So your God is a very personal God to you, then.
My God is the God of the Bible. Period. There is no distinction. There is no. More often than not, the distinctions you see in the pews and the churches and synagogues, wherever throughout, at least this city, like I said, and like most of it is charlatans. Okay, you got in the Midwest and down south, they're in football stadiums doing damn near rap concerts. You know what I mean? Like it's. I'm pretty sure it's something that's disgusting to him.
To hook kids, you got to make it hip.
Well, and that's
and since the fact that they have to go to tactics to get people in, says something to the validity.
Who's they? Because I contend, are not the fears of God. Right? They may be in the church, the holy rollers. They're spinning for money, for ratings, whatever. So a lot of the people there. I'm sorry.
What churches do you think are real?
I don't think I go according to the Bible. You said I hate religion. It's not a church.
You go but you can't go by the Bible. The Bible, man, you have to honestly admit that if you read that Bible and you lived according to the rules in that Bible, you wouldn't make it 30 days before you'd be in prison. There's no fucking way you can live by that Bible.
That is
not in America. Not in America. You can in Saudi Arabia. Oh, they love the Bible rules there. But here, they don't fly.
That is the opinion of someone who clearly doesn't understand the text at all and probably doesn't know much about the text. I can hand you a book on Marine Corps tactics and you can pick one or two sentences out of there and hold a conversation and say it, and it sounds like you got an intelligible point. But I would know, and every Marine would know that.
But I haven't
read the whole
Marine textbook. I've never read the whole Marine textbook. I've read the Bible. I didn't see anything in there that says, hey, live like this and you'll do well in America.
If you read the Bible, then you might, perhaps, and I'm making an assumption here, perhaps you were where I once was. Where, despite your intellectual
wait. This is how I became an atheist. I was in jail. I had nothing better to do. I was locked in a cell all fucking day, all fucking night. Got an hour at 8 a.m. one day and 8 p.m. the next. I had nothing better to do. I took a long look at what the fuck am I doing with my life? I got to do something. Maybe it's because I don't have that relationship with Jesus. So I cracked that book, the only fucking book I had access to. And I read that motherfucker. I had nothing to do but to fall asleep reading the Bible. And it made me, by the time I got out, I was an atheist. And then 2008, I got YouTube. Now I'm an anti-theist. It's just more information I get, the less.
You have
Go.
there's some way that your heart pumps, and if that works for you, that works for you. What can I say?
I have something I would like to bring up from Bobby in the chat. He's talking about our guest here, the religious guest. He says,
not a religious guest.
Wow.
The religious guest smoking a joint.
Well, the preaching atheist says, he says he believes in the God of the Bible, yet he does not do what it says in Hebrews 10:25, as he is forsaking the assembly of believers. What do you think?
That is complete. That's driven by the sentiment of that person. And when I say sentiment, I mean, let me be clear. And I'm not being offensive. You got an open hangout because you let me come on. There's something called a seething, damn near hatred that it colors their intellect, their reason, everything. It doesn't matter how reasonable they are or anything. These people will look you dead in the face and tell you that the sky is purple. When it says forsaken the body of believers, has that person stopped to realize what the body of believers are? Because the body of believers are those who believe in God. There is no one who claims to fear God or believe in God that would, one, not recognize one of the members of the body of believers, two, would utterly reject that person. What I contend is that I'm more likely to run into one of the body of believers standing on the grocery line than sitting in the pew trying to pretend to be high and mighty holy rollers. When I when I was a kid, and I admit I was a little scumbag. When I was a kid, you know what they used to say? They say, Julie, get off the corner. You need to find yourself a nice college girl. And I said, when I come out of the Marine Corps, I say, I wish that commercial was still on late at night. You could hear it. Ding, 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 girls gone wild. I would say, Mita, look, those are all college girls, all those boys right there. Then they would say, kid, you need to go. They would say, you need to go to church and find a good girl. Every time I went to church, I seen when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I seen a bunch of whores that were just hiding in church, hiding like they're good girls, but they wanted to be more whorish than the buzzards that were walking up and down the strip. So again, den of vipers. Okay, so whoever told you that because I'm not going into a building every Sunday, or I'm not, doing this, that, and the other, and they say, therefore, I'm rejecting the body of believers, that person heard me say how much I fear God, and hears what I'm saying, and hears me make sure that I'm not a hypocrite by telling you that I am unpolished, and I fear if I was to die right now on this hangout call, I am not certain that I will go to heaven. So that person who said that to you, this is what I'm talking about. They know all of that, and they crafted an argument, perhaps unwillingly, unintentionally, but it's driven by a sentiment in their heart. And I know that sentiment because I used to harbor it. That's all I'm saying.
So why believe in God then if you don't think that you might make it into the afterlife?
I'm trying to get to a more polished position. As long as I keep waking up, I still got a chance, right?
Would you be willing to do a Bible study with an atheist?
Of course.
I think you could.
Absolutely. Any given time. As long as, they got to give me time to...
We can set that shit up. Fuck that.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Desperately. But you now realize that when we do that, it can't be... and I'm telling you right now, whoever's listening, you guys can save, go to my profile or whatever, save my info, hit me up anytime. I'm game. As long as I'm not busy, I'm game. So when you do that, you can't do it like how that character in the chat just did, where you throw out a line and you don't allow a person to respond.
I mean, sit down and read a chapter of the fucking Bible, and
Let's do it.
You can give your fucking take on it, and then an atheist gives,
I am listen.
Right,
anybody listening on this hangout, and anybody listening in the chat, you see my name. It's called Lived It. That's just the hangout. Because my primary account is Julius Lex. Whenever you see me, contact me, hit me up. Please, I don't really want to do that with a one-on-one because I think it's ineffective. When I listen to you guys and others, it's good when I listen to 3 or more because I learn things like about science that I don't know. So if we're gonna do this, just get about 3 people. Matter of fact, I preferably
3 on 3. That's good.
Listen, I am game. I'm gonna tell you right now.
You sound like you're
I would
tag-teaming
prefer to
each other
be.
there.
I don't mind because I'm not quote unquote a real Christian
Well, if you
religious
want me,
person.
bro.
Because I'm not quote unquote a real religious person, like how some atheists or others in the chat may think.
I just
Because you know,
want to know why.
I'd like to be the only one, and you see
I
how an
just want to know
idiot
why you believe in
handles
God, there,
himself.
Jules.
Well,
Well,
I'm a
explain
fucking
why.
simpleton, and I don't.
But if you don't think that you might make it into heaven, you don't attend a church on a regular basis. I just wonder why you have this belief in God. To me, from my position, from what you've explained to me, your belief in God is just unnecessary.
Well, that's to you. You know, to me, I find that whether necessary or not, I am going to die. Okay,
Yes.
as will you, and because of that, I've made my lot. Because when I compare the consequences, hey, if you're right, we all turn to dust, right? No problem.
I know.
If I'm
but
right,
the problem is, you're not living like
That's
the
Pascal's
next life is
wager.
more important than this one. This
No, I'm
one's the
not.
only one you get.
no, I'm not. If I was going to do,
Oh,
listen,
all right.
I know how quickly, as you do, all adults do, how quickly life can end. And I've seen it in front of me countless times before I was a Marine. But while I was a Marine, I seen it could end brutally. Okay. And I seen the look, especially in young men's eye, because a young man is all young men, and all you guys who are men, you know this, we tend to think we're Superman. And when death hits a young man and he has even 30 seconds to realize its onset, you see it in their face, ladies and gentlemen, that they understand, holy shit.
So your belief in God is more of an insurance policy for the afterlife, just in case it's real.
Ultimately, that's what it always was.
Well, that's
called prudence.
That's Pascal's wager. That's a fallacy in itself. Do you recognize that there could be other gods apart from the God that you believe in? No other gods. So,
however,
you think all the other religions are wrong then?
However, I do acknowledge that the faith that I have says that many civilizations and even individual people mistake what they see, hear, and feel and think that is a deity or a god when in fact
you believe that
it's the opposite.
You believe that other religions are wrong then?
I mean, wrong.
If you say there's only one God,
to me, so I'm an American, right?
Yeah.
I don't go around judging Scotland, England, Iceland, South America, countries, Asia. Like, you know, you have your opinions or whatever, but that's how they live.
A God would be in charge of all of them, right?
And he is.
Yeah.
He is.
And you believe you believe that your God is the right one, and all other gods are, and you believe that all of the gods are wrong.
I don't even acknowledge them.
Don't acknowledge them
at all.
So a third of the planet you believe are following the wrong God.
A third of the planet doesn't know my God. I'll put it that way. Well, and actually, that's wrong. That's wrong because many of them do. Like at least if you include Muslims in that third, they clearly
and Jews
know my God. If you include Jews, they introduced the world to my God. So when you say a third, when you include the Muslims in there, that doesn't work because they know my God definitely. They acknowledge him and everything. It's hypocritical because on one hand you say he's not the son of God, but on the other hand you say he's a prophet. Nobody acknowledges a lying prophet if you're Muslim, Jewish, or Christian. A lying prophet is almost akin to a demon, okay? These are the vipers. That's what a lying prophet is. So if you tell me on one breath, no, this guy was lying, he's not the son of God, he's not this, he's not that. But on the other hand, you say, you know what, he was just a wise, nice prophet.
Christianity says the only way through to God, to heaven and the afterlife, is through Jesus.
That is correct.
Accepting Jesus as
and God said there are no other gods before me.
That's correct.
So that means that only Christianity is the right one, and all the other religions are wrong. So
Everybody wants to go to so therefore that means, but this ain't math, because what Christ also said was, I have many sheep of other flocks. What of them? He posed that as a question, not saying like he's
but he said,
deliberating in
if
his
you don't, he also said, if you do not accept me as God, I am the way to God. I am the way to heaven, he said. And if those other religions don't accept him as such, then there is no way they can enter the kingdom of God.
So please try to understand my over-reliance on reason in this topic, even though it's religious. And you normally don't think that reason and religion go together, and I understand that. When I say that, not me, when it is said that Christ said, I have many sheep of other flocks.
Yes.
What he was talking about, because he was being questioned. Follow that, just type in that sentence in Google and it'll take you to the verse. When he said that, he was speaking to those who didn't even know the Middle East existed. And he was speaking to those who were in the Middle East and who worship Baal and never heard of the, God Almighty and this, that, and the other.
What did Jesus come to do?
Well, forgive me, I promise you I will not duck your question.
What was the reason for Jesus' existence?
Well, I'll answer that. I promise you I will. Okay. I won't duck you, but I'm just trying to finish my point. When he said that he had sheep in other folds, I remind you that when I think it was the walls of Jericho, when they went there, throughout the Old Testament, there had always been key people that were not Jewish, that did not grow up in any way even knowing about God Almighty, that clearly these were righteous people because God sent people like Elijah to the woman to feed him. He sent he sent them to the woman who, the harlot, the whore, who lived on the walls of Jericho, who put out the linen so that they know where they're attacking, all of this. Several times in history, in the Old Testament, God shows that he has people who he loves and considers who know nothing about him, but they're righteous in their heart. Thus, he says, my sheep know my voice.
He also has
my law is written on their heart. So I say that to address, I'm sorry to cut you off, brother. I'm trying. I say that to say, that is how I address those who present a question like you said. Well, if unless you know Christ, then they say that everybody's getting condemned. I'll go back to this. In Isaiah, in the Old Testament, when I was a kid, I read it, and it said, come, let us reason. It always stopped me. You think a God of love and a God of reason would be so unloving and so unreasonable as to condemn people who never heard about him? Because if that is the case, that would not be a God that I serve. It makes no sense. Now, you said, what is the reason that Jesus came? Is that what you asked?
What is the reason?
He came because he came to be the end-all, be-all. Believe in me and try to follow my path.
Why did he die?
And there's no need for you to throw up thousands of dollars and slaughter bulls. I'm God. I have no need of your money or the blood of your animals.
Why did he die?
But no, he did need the blood of the animals. Wait. Whoa. Back up. He did need the sacrifice. That is what Jesus is about. Jesus is the ultimate sacrifice, so we don't have to sacrifice a goat every time we have a male child or a firstborn male. We don't have to, I don't know, well, I forget all the reasons.
Did you hear what you just said?
Sacrifice animals. What?
Did you hear what you just said?
It's necessary. You said it wasn't necessary. It was necessary.
Now, hold on, because please correct me. And again, if I'm being offensive, I'll time out. I'll mute myself.
You're not being offensive. You're not being offensive at all.
I'm
sorry. I'm hyper.
No. You're fine. You're typical. Like you're intellectual and about a topic like this.
You got me fucked up with somebody else, dude.
No, man. I mean, like in a conversation like this, you're clearly reasonable. You clearly know what you're talking about.
I'll accept that.
You clearly know what you're talking about. But Aristotle spoke to something that I always termed as emotional intelligence. And part of it is being able to perceive sentiment. You know how you feel on the inside. I'll make no sweeping judgments, but I'll just say this. Sentiment tends to color reason. Here's why. When I said there's no need for the slaughtering of your animals, you immediately went to the blood that Christ, who put himself as the lamb. Now, he put himself and shed his blood. This is God Almighty. Shed his blood and said, if you believe in me, you have faith in me, I'll cover your sins. Don't worry about it. That doesn't
Why
mean
does that
go
make
on
sense?
sinning. But if I could finish, that doesn't mean go on being the way that you are. But he's saying, I am your only avenue because you can't slaughter enough bulls to try to satisfy me. You can't give me every dime of your pay to try to. I'm God Almighty. You're either
See,
gonna.
that's the thing. When I was a Christian,
So when you chimed in,
wait,
I just want you to,
time out.
I want you to notice that when you chimed in,
But-
you chimed in only with sentiment. You immediately said that's wrong. He said his blood. He did. I said the animals, but you couldn't see that because of the sentiment. The sentiment,
he's a
like that
substitute
seething
for that
hatred, you know?
for the animals. If
Hey,
you accept him,
Jesus
you no
came
longer
to
need
save
the
us.
animals.
Jesus came to save us all. That was the reason for Jesus' coming. And through his
100% correct.
through his sacrifice, he saved us.
We no
And
longer
that-
need to sacrifice other animals for all that other bullshit.
Right.
So that
Right.
means
That's, that doesn't.
if you don't accept Jesus was God, that means that you do not enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah. And
Just
see,
like-
the thing is, check this out. When I was a Christian, I thought that I had a while to go. I was right too. I've made it another 25 years, but I thought I got a while to go. All I got to do is before I die, just say sorry for it. Fuck that. That's mine then. It ain't nailed down. I'm taking it.
It's a bloody mind that thinks that way. It would be almost like you having a girlfriend. It would be almost like you having a girlfriend who says, fuck him, I'm going to suck cock with everybody and do whatever the fuck I want. And don't worry, at the end, I'll just come up to him and I'll say, I'm sorry, and he'll take me back anyway. Now, you and I know as men, there are plenty of chumps who will find themselves in that situation. I assure you, God is no chump.
Yeah, but the thing is, I became an atheist, and now I'm honest as shit. I haven't been back to jail since reading that Bible did make
you don't need to be there,
I'll
bro.
never go to jail again, ever.
Yeah, you don't need to be there. Like they're doing everything to seize the freedom, particularly of men. Don't let anybody put you in a cage. Fuck that.
But
you don't deserve
I'm
it.
saying, but when I believed in God, it was no big deal.
If you guys don't mind, I would like to interrupt for a second. We got another person in the chat or in the hangout. He goes by the name of Unspeakable Truth, I believe.
Hello, Unspeakable Truth. It's Unspeakable. My name's Lydia. I just noticed
Lydia?
that Julius.
Lydia, what's going on? I know her.
Hey,
She's
man.
cool. She's super
cool. I came in to just to vouch for his good character and tell you not to be mean to him, basically.
I'm trying to be mean.
Oh, I know you are.
I just come across that way.
Oh, it's all good, man. I just I like him, and he's a good guy, and so I'm here to protect him, basically, because I do that.
Yeah, I think he's a really good guy. It's just that we just want to
I disagree with him too. I disagree with him too on the theism thing, but on other things I do agree with him. So, we disagree on one subject. It's all good.
I don't think he sounds like a bad person. I don't.
You're a sweetheart. Appreciate it, lady, but I don't mind.
I know you don't need. I know you don't need help, but it's like
I did need to hear you say that though. Like what it is, guys, don't misunderstand. Like, look, when I said Aristotle, sentiment, I tend to, getting closer to 40, I tend to pay attention to sentiment. So you can have someone say something that's completely true, just like, someone saying, I love you. And there's many ways you can say that. You can say it in a way that means go fuck yourself. So when I hear and perceive certain sentiment, I know what I'm dealing with. And they do too. And, it's no problem. It's no problem.
Yeah, it was nice having a chat, but with you, Jules.
I didn't mean to interrupt the flow of the interrogation. Please continue.
Oh, no.
I do want to break him of this theism habit.
Let's get back into the God of the Bible.
So
what is
getting that Jesus he came to sacrifice himself to atone for the sins of man. Do you think that it's possible that in this great universe of ours that there are lives on other planets?
I do think it's possible, but I just gotta say this.
So
I think it's possible only.
Sorry. So because there are possibly life on other planets, that means that those people weren't saved by Jesus because obviously he saved man and not aliens.
Lunacy to me. Lunacy.
No, those are
Like,
the
that's
other.
making-
Those are the other people he was talking about. We're just
No,
one of the stars in their sky to tell what day of the year it is.
Well,
But
whatever.
I
But I
actually
think
went over. I actually asked you this the other day, didn't I, Julius? Like
you did.
about like whether the same message would be given to people on other planets. I think you said that they, in your idea, wouldn't have fallen, so they didn't have anything to atone for. Is that what I'm remembering correctly?
No, what I was specifically saying was everything in the Bible, the text of the Bible was applied to man here, but not just for man. It was also for angels, both fallen
So
and not fallen.
there was a Garden of
But-
Eden on other planets as well, then.
No, that is,
And that
and
Garden
that's
of
absurd.
Eden.
That's absurd. And
Well, that's
you know,
the sin. That's the sin that Jesus came to absolve of us from. Was eating from the fruit of knowledge, the tree of knowledge.
let me break it down and make
So
it
if that
perfectly
didn't
clear.
if that didn't happen on other planets as well, then there was no sin for them to atone from. They
Quite
didn't
possibly.
fall from-
Quite possibly,
So-
because
so-
here's the thing.
Everything goes according to his plan. So he intentionally put the snake there.
So
to
he
fuck
knew it
Eve
was
up,
going to fail.
so he could blame women on shit being fucked up. So
Well, that's a
yeah,
wedge
I
issue.
don't follow.
That's
I
a
don't
wedge
follow.
issue. So what I tried to do when you heard me speak about the book of Judges and Ruth and the Song of Solomon, which all of these things speak directly to how women are seen. I'm sure you guys know that he calls the body of believers his bride. Women have always been held in a premier position. It was chumps, simps, men, flesh and blood, guys, chumps basically, who actually subjugated women. This was not a divine order.
No,
Okay?
whoa.
Wait,
No. It was the snake.
Yes.
The talking snake. It wasn't man.
It was Eve's fault
that-
that she let the snake
We're
talk her into it.
conflating issues. We're conflating issues. So let me be perfectly.
No, we're not. You said.
Let me
you
be
said-
perfectly clear,
Go
so
on
that
then.
you know I can be corrected. What I'm
I
saying,
see-
what I am
go ahead.
alleging, is that a woman, just like being a jewel in her family, bring her a wife. You look at a nation that treats its women better is always a better nation. Everywhere on earth where women are subjugated, the nations are like shit.
The
I'm
Bible
saying
doesn't
that the
teach
God,
that, though, does it?
it does, but
Yeah.
well, we're going to have that Bible study where I'll show. I'll just point you to Ruth,
All right.
who is a woman. Ruth is a woman, and she wasn't a Jew. And I'll point you to the Book of Solomon, written by the guy who had more women than anybody known in the Bible.
Wait a
And-
minute. If that can't be written by Solomon in being the Bible.
The Book of Solomon wasn't.
Have you
the-
just
the
admitted,
song-
have you just admitted that the Bible's written by a man?
Oh, Jesus. So, again, I don't want to be
Was it written
offensive,
by a
but
man,
this sounds
or was-
like semantics driven
No,
by
was
sentiment.
it written by a man or was it written by God?
It clearly says who the author is when it says King Solomon, does it not?
So it wasn't written by God.
Moses is said to have written the first 5 books, were they not? Where did he
Right.
get the inspiration from?
I don't
Where did
think-
the
I mean,
Ten Commandments come from?
So
Same
look,
place,
it-
the same place that got L. Ron Hubbard his inspiration about fucking. God damn it!
And before I lose my point, because there was something you said, but I could, again, I read sentiment. It doesn't matter tone. It doesn't matter diction. I read sentiment. So I knew it was going to be follow on. And I'm cool with that. I just told you, I don't mind being the only guy on the panel, and we can have that Bible study. But here's the thing. Jesus actually coming here, when you read it, that's not how it happened. What it's
He's on mobile, I think.
Yeah.
I think he accidentally dropped again.
Yeah,
I think
it's a Google.
Well, he was mid
mobile
sentence.
drop in. There he is.
Yeah.
as far as Jesus coming here, because you said that point, you moved right on from it, and I understand. God himself, it is said, so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son to be killed, that whoever believes in him will be saved. Now, what that means is God.
Why?
Whoa, hold on. 10 seconds. God actually did what apparently he dangled in front of Abraham to see if Abraham had the faith. God actually did it. He wouldn't let Abraham do it. He didn't have anybody do that thing. He pushed him to the line, but then he himself gave his only son. And his only son, when he was here, he actually prayed before he was dead. This is the king himself said, Father, if there's any way, hold on, Jesus said, if there's any way that this cup can pass from me, please let it be. But if not, your will so be it. What that tells you is that Jesus didn't want to do it. Okay? It's equivalent to Abraham's son saying, I know I'm going to be slaughtered. Dad, don't do this. If there's any way not to. Abraham's son didn't even know, and Abraham didn't really want to do it, and God stopped him. However, when it came to God himself, God actually did it. So he did it himself.
No. His kid's on vacation, and he cut his vacation short. That's all.
You can be arrogant. You can be arrogant.
He beat his ass before he brought him home.
You can be arrogant, but I'm trying to have a real reasonable conversation.
That's beside the point. It's like, okay, God, this is how on earth can this God be a sovereign, in charge, made everything the way it is, and then say he has to do anything, that he's required to do anything?
There's another point to make in all this as well, is that you said God gave his son. Is Jesus the son, or is Jesus God?
I'm almost tempted to ask you to repeat the. I'm tempted to ask you to repeat the question to really hear what you're saying.
Is Jesus
for you to really
God?
Hear what you're saying.
Is Jesus God, or is Jesus the Son of God?
I'm sure you know the answer to that.
Right. So
you're not.
You believe that Jesus is God. So he didn't give his own son. He sent down.
Jesus.
He sacrificed himself.
Do you remember about 20 minutes ago when I said you realize when you talk to people about this that at a certain point you're going to reach an event horizon because of not just your sentiment, but because you really don't believe. You realize there's going to be a point in which you're going to be like, I can go no further. This is if you would get stuck on the point of is Jesus God or not, when you know we believe that he is God, and you know that he said I am God, and you know that he is the Son. Why would you focus on that?
Interchangeably.
What if I were to posit that I am just as much God as Jesus ever claimed to be? I and the Father are one. You can make that mean something that I can agree with.
I'll tell you this: if that is the case, then you should have command over all creation, and more importantly, you should have command over.
It's just as much you as it is me.
That's a personal opinion, I guess. Who am I to tell you can't think as you wish?
What I was getting to with the Son of God and the Father of God thing is that he sent part of himself, if you will, or his son. Doesn't really matter about the semantics of that. Is he sent part of himself to atone for the sins of Adam and Eve for gaining the knowledge from that tree. But he himself, God himself, made that tree and made that talking snake, and he knew it was going to happen, and you've said yourself that he knew it was going to happen. Just like if there was any aliens on any planets, that exactly the same thing was going to happen. And with God being all-knowing, he knew it was going to happen. So why do it in the first place? So he knew that was going to happen. So why would he then set it up and knowing it was going to happen and then have to send his son or whatever to atone for his sin? So he knew the sin was going to happen. So what I'm trying to get at is he's set this whole thing up that, oh, look, this happened. Yeah, we knew it was going to happen.
What you're getting at is you're ignoring the entire reality of free will and instruction. That's what
but he knew it. Did God know?
Like when you have a child or you have a puppy in your house, and if you don't block the sockets or make sure the antifreeze is stowed away so the puppy doesn't get it, the puppy's going to die. The kid's going to get shocked.
I don't believe free will exists.
Yeah, do you think
You don't believe free will exists?
No.
Well, then right there, that's why we have the difference of opinion.
Well,
Okay,
do you believe do you define it as libertarian free will or compatibilist free will? Do you think that you can make an action without a reason behind it? And can you do otherwise than you do?
I can't tell what you're saying there.
It sounds deep what she said, but I wanted to say it again.
I was asking Julius whether his definition of free will is the compatibilist version or the libertarian version.
Explain the two to me, because to me, there's only one kind.
When you make a decision, could you have done otherwise?
That's free will to me. I don't know of it being any variance thereof.
Are there reasons that you made the decision that you made?
You would think that people make decisions based on reasons, but often, just as we see here, and what I keep saying, is sentiment.
How is that free then? If there's a reason that the decision was made, then there's a reason for that reason.
To me, that is
a. For that reason. Right?
To me,
I mean, it goes back and back. Where is
you don't
freedom?
sound unreasonable to me. You don't,
Right.
really. You know, I know you. That doesn't sound unreasonable to me at all. It just sounds like one of those philosophical dialogues. Like, what is. Like, you know, I guess you could go on that.
Free will is a very philosophical question. It's one that's never been solved.
I would assume, but in a practical layperson's term, what I take free will to mean from a divine sense is, hey, even though I'm God Almighty, you can do as you please. You can choose to follow me or not. That's free will to me, period.
The whole question is really important, because if there's a reason that's put in place that you're making this decision, the reason is there, then where is the point where it becomes free?
You choose hate or you choose love.
No one's disputing that a choice is made.
Right.
If there's a reason for the choice, then the choice is dependent on the things which came before.
So let's look at the choice. You choose love or you choose hate.
And why,
it's essentially
why would you choose love? And why would you choose
because
love?
To
why
me,
would you choose hate?
Because to me, to choose hate would be unreasonable.
And you believe that because
I know what love is,
right?
and I know what hate is.
Previous factors, things that you learned before, and the way that you're made, and things like that. I
know that love feels good and hate destroys.
And you learned that
whether self or otherwise.
And you learned that from previous experience. Right. Okay.
Of course.
So those are the factors. Those are the reasons. But I don't really know what choosing love. That's kind of a broad thing. I was thinking more of like choosing to go left or choosing to go right.
Jules,
okay. I got you.
Is there any evil in heaven, Jules?
There may be now, but it won't be all time. And please understand, when I say it may be now, it's because when Satan was allowed to tempt Job, and he actually ran up to the throne of God and said, hey, the reason why Job is this, that, and the other is because you put a hedge around him. You won't let any of us touch him. When I read that as a kid, I used that as fuel for my hatred for him, because I would say, you see this shit? He's saying that he's God and he's got our back, this, that, and the other. So why is it that the enemy is allowed to walk into the throne room at any given time? I think Satan still has that ability.
So if there's evil in heaven, what makes it any different to...
Listen to me very carefully, because I understand the sentiment, but I'm here specifically for that sentiment. What I said was, I think, this is just me as a regular man, I'm deducing that, not that there's evil in heaven, but evil may be allowed in because Satan himself was allowed to go to the throne room and question about Job so that he could test him. And he was granted that. And to this day, I have a problem with that.
I would say that Satan was not evil in the original story. Satan was the challenger of man.
You could say that, but
the Satan was never evil until
you could say that, and I guarantee, I'm willing to concede that I bet that'll be his, that'll be his defense when he's, standing in the hot seat. He'll say, no, I wasn't doing that. I was just trying to,
for your deity, he challenges. He accuses man. He challenges man in this mythos. That's what that figure was supposed to do. He's like the prosecuting attorney.
So
can anything do anything? Can something made by this deity really go against the will of the deity?
He's called the accuser and all of this, and he is. And, you know, when people try to make arguments for him, that's great, because I know he's going to make, you know, when you got your ass about to hit the electric chair, you'll say and do anything. And he knows his time is short, but
I don't think this thing exists.
no, I'm not talking about you.
Okay, but in this story, there's no hint that this Satan person is doing anything that your God disapproves of.
Oh, yes, there is. From the outset, what his problem was is he wanted to supersede God. Everybody overlooks that.
Oh, you think that the serpent is the Satan, but I totally disagree with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at first I think the serpent is kind of like the Prometheus figure, which goes against the authority and questions it. It brings down fire, brings down knowledge, and then it goes against the king God, and is punished for it.
Here's what I do know, though. What it does say about Satan himself, the enemy, is it says, in that day, when the damned actually see him in the pits of hell, when they actually see him, it says that not just the damned, but even fallen angels, it says they will look at him narrowly. You know, narrowly, like squinting your eyes in the sun. Narrowly as in, this is the little pissant that's been causing all this trouble. See, Satan's not a warrior. He's not some big horned guy. He was the most beautiful angel. He was the leader of all musical instruments. He's made as a beautiful creature, the most beautiful creature. But his heart's so swollen with pride and arrogance that we got all this shit. And it says in the ancient text that when you see him, you'll actually squint with your eyes and look at him narrowly. Like, this little son of a bitch was the one that caused all the trouble?
Well, it didn't
Don't worry, we're all going to see.
It didn't cause trouble for your deity. He caused trouble for the people who were weak enough in this mythos to believe what he said.
I think when God said iniquity, that you were the most beautiful, covered in every precious stone, until iniquity was found in you.
That was talking about a king, not about any angels.
No, he was talking about Satan himself.
No,
he was talking about Lucifer himself.
They said that about Lucifer and they're different characters.
I would like to bring.
They are not the same character. Go ahead.
I would like to ask a question here. Since when you're talking about free will and whatnot, see, I don't believe in it either. But let me ask you a question. If he has this grand plan for us, right, and if he knows exactly what we're going to do and everything else, how can I make a choice?
That's a good question.
I think you might be mistaken. When you say grand plan, what are you talking about?
Everything happens for
every Christian that I've ever talked to says that he has a grand plan for all of us, that he knows what we are doing before we are even born, etc., right?
Well, I think I explained.
Does anything happen against God's will?
Hold on. So if he has a grand plan for us before we're even born, how can we make a choice freely?
Okay.
How does that correlate with free will?
Your entire question just now was based off of most likely the assholes who tell you that they're Christian, as I spoke to when I first came on your channel. You know, the same characters who will tell you that we were riding triceratops like horses. You know, so
not real
I would
Christians,
say. I would ask you to look at the reasonableness of the so-called Christians. You say every time I speak to Christians, they say grand plan. The only grand plan that I know of that is spoken of is the grand plan for salvation for anybody who wants it. Meaning, if you don't want to burn, if you do want to live, if you do want to do the right thing, and you want a fruitful life, and you want your soul to be at ease, should you not wake up, there's a salvation grand plan for that. As for everything else, I don't know what you're talking about.
Is this God in charge of the universe or not?
But he's all knowing. Am I correct?
And let me ask one question.
He's God.
Somebody gets drunk and gets into a car accident and kills somebody, and then somebody else says to console them, you know, God, you know, what's the saying? God damn it, God works in mysterious ways. You know, is that? I mean. So God made the dude get drunk and hit the car is what they're saying. Isn't it?
When 9/11 happened in this city, I remember the next day on the news here, local news, there was a priest on TV, and because everybody was saying, why is this shit happening? Why do they hate us? And there's a priest who read something out of the New Testament that was similar to the towers. It was something like 2 towers in the New Testament fell and killed a bunch of people. And the same people in the Bible asked Jesus that, and they said, did God mean for this to happen? Did he just want to wipe them out? Now, because I can't cite the verse and reference exactly what that was, I'm sure, like I said, Google works, and you guys can find that, and I'm pretty sure that'll speak to the question you just asked.
Do you think he was wrong?
Basically, that question is, why do bad things happen to good people? Is this God's plan? And he clearly defines in that story, not that story, but he clearly laid that out thousands of years ago.
Do you think
So it was funny because he said the 2 towers, and it just so happened that 2 towers fell here, 16 years ago.
So Ecclesiastes, it basically boils down to shit happens, right? I can get on board with that.
I don't know if it's that cut and dry, but
I mean, pretty much. But then he like doubles. The whole book is basically shit happens, and then at the end he's like, well, we have to go along with God's plan and trust God.
I don't know.
God altered the plan.
I don't know. How you doing?
Do you think the guy on the TV show, the preacher, do you think he was wrong in saying that it was God moves in mysterious ways?
I'm sorry, guys. I'll be right back, okay? I'm not ducking. I got to take a call.
Because, I mean, if he said that he didn't, that...
Hey, I didn't mean to like jump in and like totally take over there.
Oh no, that's fine.
I very rarely do this kind of debatey thing, and like.
That's fine. You're welcome to come into the chat anytime. I mean, I welcome everybody, just as long as they don't get out of hand and abusive like some other people I know around here.
Yeah, you're not gonna have that problem. You're not gonna have that problem with me.
The issue I've got at minute with Jules is every time we tie him down to one of his positions, he always retracts to they are not real Christians view. Do you know what I mean?
They call it the no true Scotsman fallacy.
He's got the no true Scotsman fallacy. He's also got he tends to Pascal's wager.
This is the issue I see with him, and I hate talking about him when he's not here, but I think this is why I have hope for him. It's like he has a really good heart and a really good head, but he really wants this to be true, and he's having, in order to hold his belief.
We all want it to be true.
I don't.
Wouldn't it be good if it was true?
Oh hell no! The universe would be a hierarchy, a monarchy. I can't get on board with that.
But you'd live forever.
I don't want to live forever. Are you kidding me?
I know that. I always tell people.
I see him having to hold these dissonances in his head, and it kind of, that's why I'm like, all I need to do is to gently like point out the dissonance and let him go with it, instead of like going full on frontal. He's one of those people who's like, I want to plant a seed of like, why do I hold these two beliefs at the same time?
Yes, that's what I keep trying to ask him questions to get him thinking for his own. I mean, have you imagine
after a trillion years realizing you haven't scratched the surface?
Have you watched something called Street Epistemology?
Oh yeah, I'm quite familiar. I find when it's too scripted, it bugs me. But I mean, I think that the idea behind it is excellent. It's just that I like when it's done in a very scripted, prescribed manner. It reminds me of like atheist precepts, and that bugs me.
It's preaching, then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like it gets formulaic, and that's unpleasant. But when it's done right, it's great. So yeah.
Yeah, but so about here in about maybe 10 more minutes, guys, I'm gonna have to shut it down because this show's actually went on longer than I've actually planned for it to. But hey, that's good. I like this. We've had a good discussion. I really like it. It's just, when it comes to that whole free will thing, I get hung up on that because, if this alleged creator is all knowing and he knows what you're going to do right from the beginning before you're even born, how can I make a choice, right?
Well,
that ain't exactly free will to me.
To me, it's the old heaven. That's why I said, "Is there any evil in heaven?" to Jules earlier. What I was trying to get at is if, obviously, most people are going to say no. Just heaven is the place of tranquility. So if there's no evil in heaven, then it also means that there is no free will in heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and imagine if after that trillion years, all you've been doing is just worshiping God for just trillion years.
Just licking the arsehole of God forever.
Yeah, I'm cool. I'll just stop existing. I'll deal with the hell. After a while, you become numb with pain. You grow acclimated to it. It doesn't hurt anymore. Now you're chilling with
Some people like pain anyway. How would that be a punishment for people who are into S&M, for example?
I don't mind it. I told people myself.
There are limits to what one enjoys
yes,
S&M,
that's
I
terrible.
think.
That's terrible. A little to the left.
I can't think of anyone, no matter how extreme, that's going to enjoy being actually burned.
I know a few people who like.
No, burn
Well,
sucks.
to a point, but not like consumed by fire.
It'd be like, hit me harder. I love it.
Think about all the people who read like 50 Shades and things like that. Oh, they'd totally be into it. They want that.
I mean, I can handle some spanking and things, maybe even some lashing, but being set on fire, that might be a little too far. Bridge too far.
I'd rather have a nice cup of tea. I don't want to be dealing with any of it right now.
Yeah, no.
Nice cup of tea, a bar of chocolate. That'll do me nicely.
Oh man, this has been a really good conversation, guys. I really enjoyed this. I mean, it was a really good hangout.
It was really good, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, John.
Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You guys are more than welcome to come back anytime. I like having people here. There's a few that I really don't care to have on here because they're absolutely unreasonable, and Angry can attest to this. There's some people out there that just will not let you talk. They'll talk over you and just completely bomb the whole hangout altogether.
Yeah, try and take it over.
Yeah, and was a guy that got mad because she tried to cut him off when he's trying to explain for 20 minutes why he doesn't believe in fairies. It's like, dude. Okay, it's not, we know why you don't believe stuff. What the fuck?
And now Tinkerbella's dead. Are you happy now? No. Sorry.
I added all of you, but I couldn't add the Nanadaime. How do you say your name, Nana?
Oh, just call me John.
John, I couldn't add you because you seem to be restricted to me for some reason. Don't know why.
Restricted?
Anyway, I added on your Google
that's
Plus
that.
anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up for you too. I noticed that I tried to follow you, and it says restricted.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So I couldn't do anything.
You pre-blocked the whole.
settings.
Yeah.
I like to be private. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, you can have me
That's
anyway,
understandable.
because I'm not restricted.
That's completely understandable. Not a problem at all. But yeah, I think
why he has 3 followers.
yeah, if you guys have, let's see, Unspeakable Truth, if you happen to run into him again, tell him he's more than welcome to come back into a hangout in the future.
Yeah, he tends to hang out. I've encountered him in a few other rooms that I go to.
Yeah, because right now I think I'm gonna have to shut it down for the night. Because I got other things I got to do, but you guys are more than welcome to come back. It was definitely nice to talk with everybody, especially Stella, because she never comes into any of my hangouts. She never comes into any of my hangouts.
I watch the videos, though, and I'm always there.
Well, thank you, John,
Yeah.
for having us all.
Oh yeah, no problem. It was a pleasure. Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to everybody. You guys have a good, be good at it.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you. And you can call me Lydia in future if you want. So,
Good night, John.
Okay, you guys.
nice. Good night.
Good night. You guys have a good night.
Night, everyone. Night, everyone.
Bye.